Standing amidst a field of small craters, Risel crosses his arms in frustration. He reflects on his failed attempt to forge a super heavyweight sword with the density of a neutron star, concluding that harnessing such magic is impossible for him. At this rate, he worries he will never be able to compete on equal footing against the ultimate life forms. His thoughts drift to his recent allies, who all made excuses to leave. Banza citing an urgent matter, Leol a different direction, and Frodo his family. Realizing the limits of working alone, Risel decides he must find teammates. He resolves to fly to a populated city, but as he activates his flight magic, a dark, crackling distortion rips open the space beneath him. The anomaly expands into a massive, crackling rift in space. Standing on a glowing magical sigil, Risel stares up at it, questioning what it is. He quickly confirms his own flight magic is not malfunctioning, leaving him to wonder about the source of the bizarre spatial distortion. He watches with growing alarm as the dark energy swirls violently. A sudden fear grips him. If that distortion starts sucking things in, it would cause serious problems. His face is a mask of pure shock as he stares at the impossible phenomenon unfolding before him, managing only to stammer, "Wah, what the?" From the dark rift, three shadowy forms coalesce into a single, radiant woman with long, flowing hair. She descends with a gentle smile and introduces herself to the stunned young man as Risha, the summoning goddess. He remains frozen, the word goddess echoing in his mind. As he struggles to process her sudden appearance, she simply stands before him, smiling serenely. Regaining some composure, Risel clears his throat. "Ahem. What were you trying to say?" he asks. Risha apologizes for the confusion, clarifying that she is the equivalent of a goddess from another world and has traveled here for a purpose. His mind reels. A goddess summoning heroes to another world? He internally dismisses it as a fairy tale. But then, Risha states that she always appears in the vicinity of the strongest person in a world. She looks him directly in the eyes and asks, "Are you not the one?" Her direct question startles him, and she insists this is no fairy tale. A realization dawns on Risel. She slipped through his anti-magic barrier and read his mind. He confirms her suspicion, introducing himself as Risel, the strongest in this world among humans. A new strategy forms in his mind. With her power, he might finally subjugate the superior life forms. He wonders if he should just follow her as a hero. He agrees to go. Risha is overjoyed, thanking him profusely. Risel cuts to the chase, asking what he must do. She explains the mission: follow the king's order and defeat the demon lord. With a simple acknowledgement, he confirms he understands. A dark, shadowy void begins to coalesce before him as Risha asks if he is ready. The void instantly becomes a vortex. Before he can react, Risel feels a powerful force pulling him in, his body becoming distorted as it's violently sucked into the portal. As he hurtles through a chaotic, glitching tunnel of light and data, he quickly composes himself. He realizes that struggling is futile and that one cannot get anywhere without taking risks. The disorienting journey ends as abruptly as it began. His vision clears, revealing a vast, stone hall with a high, vaulted ceiling. Before him stand Risha and the three other summon men, Leol, Banza, and Frodo, all gazing towards the far end of the chamber. Taking in the new environment, Risel notes its grandeur. A man in regal attire, the king, steps forward with a warm welcome. He then formally introduces himself as the king of this country, the very one who summoned all four of them. Risel observes the three other individuals standing before him: a bald martial artist, a man in a camouflage jacket, and a spectacled youth. He confirms his suspicion. He was not the only one summoned to this place. His thought is interrupted as the king asks an official if these four are all who were summoned. The official confirms this is correct. Risel internally acknowledges he was right, yet a sense of unease lingers. The king scrutinizes the three other heroes, noting to himself that for beings meant to be heroes, their magical power feels quite weak. He silently questions if they're truly the best their respective worlds could offer. In response to the unspoken doubt, the young official with the bowl cut steps forward. He offers to explain the state of their world, suggesting it would be best to listen before they check their own statuses. He begins by stating that the world population is divided into three primary groups: humans, demons, and demi-humans, adding that the latter are not numerous enough to be a major threat. His tone darkens as he clarifies that the real problem is the demons. Listening intently, Risel reflects that this situation is not so different from the world he came from. The official then formally identifies the summoned individuals: adventurer Leol, civil servant Frodo, mercenary Banza, and the unknown Risel. He explains that humans and demons have been at war for a long time, but the demon's influence has recently begun to increase at an alarming rate. If left unchecked, he warns, their world will fall under demonic control, which is precisely why the heroes were called forth. Following this grave explanation, the king bows deeply, pleading for them to lend their strength to defeat the demons and promising a lifetime of rewards upon their success. Risel finds the situation familiar, like when he was thanked for hunting demons back home. Banza, however, grins, and calls it an attractive deal, while Leal agrees, eager to test his strength. Frodo simply states he has no objection to fighting humanity's enemy. With their agreement secured, the official announces it is time to test their combat capabilities. He gestures to a crystal ball on a pedestal, an appraiser, and instructs them to place a hand on it. The device measures one's raw magic power and control, converting it into a numerical value. Banza steps forward confidently, declaring he'll go first since he was the first to arrive. He places his bandaged hand on the orb, which erupts in a brilliant flash of light. The official stammers in disbelief, utterly shocked by what he sees. The king and Risel look on with wide-eyed amazement as the result is revealed, a combat power of 4,097. The king roars with delight, exclaiming how amazing the score is. Banza smirks, pleased with himself. Leal adjusts his glasses and politely announces that it is his turn next. Watching this unfold, Risel furrows his brow in confusion, wondering to himself if a number like that is really supposed to be good. The combat power assessments continued. The adventurer, Leal, registered a score of 3,664, a number that drew gasps of amazement from the court. He himself seemed satisfied, thinking it was about what he expected. Next, the civil servant, Frodo, placed his hand on the crystal, achieving an even higher score of 3,776. He reacted with a nonchalant smirk, remarking that this too was within his expectations. With the other heroes' assessments complete, the official, still reeling from their impressive power, called for the final person. Risel acknowledged the summons and stepped forward. As he did, he couldn't shake the unsettling feeling about his unidentifiable status, a detail that set him apart from the others. He approached the dais and placed his hand on the appraiser. The official nervously apologized for the delay, but seconds passed and the crystal remained inert. It didn't seem to be reacting at all. The official began to stammer, thinking it wasn't working properly, while Risel asked what was wrong. Denying any issue, the official frantically urged him to try one more time, privately wondering if the device had malfunctioned. Pressing his hand firmly against the crystal's cool surface once more, he waited. The official watched with beads of sweat forming on his brow as the orb remained stubbornly dark and silent. The official stared at the result, his voice trembling as he read the single word that had appeared. 0. From his throne, the king watched in stunned silence. Risel, taken aback, asked them to wait, suggesting the machine must be broken. But the official, aghast, confirmed that the crystal was functioning perfectly. The king's shock turned to outrage as he bellowed. What? 0? His face contorted with fury. The king roared for Risel to get out. He declared that he would not, under any circumstance, recognize someone with a combat power of 0 as a hero and demanded his immediate removal from the castle. Stunned by the sudden command, Risel tried to plead his case, insisting that the result had to be an error and that he was capable of using magic. In the throne room, Risel presents a glimmering gem to a royal appraiser. He explains that this is a demonstration of his atom reconstruction magic, a power requiring immense combat capability. The appraiser, peering closely, confirms in astonishment that the piece of coal has transformed into a diamond. Risel then asks if this display clarifies the purpose of his abilities. The king, however, reacts with explosive anger, shouting that a spell to turn coal into diamond does not exist in this world. Risel, shocked by the outburst, tries to explain that it's a common spell where he comes from, but the king cuts him off, roaring for him to be quiet, declaring him useless, and ordering him to be thrown out of the castle. As the king rages, the other summoned individuals, Frodo, Leal, and Banza, scoff at what they perceive as a pathetic failed lie. Desperate, Risel turns to the goddess Risha, but she silently averts her gaze. Taking her silence as confirmation of the fraud, the king bellows for the guards, branding Risel a scammer. Responding to the summons, 2 armored guards seize him, their spears crossed to bar his path. The king proclaims his exile, telling him to take the gem as a farewell gift and to never show his face in the court again. He is cast out into a town square, standing alone and dejected. From a distance, a woman and her young child watch him, the boy pointing and asking his mother what the strange man is doing. His spirit crushed, he collapses onto the edge of a nearby fountain, burying his face in his hands as he wonders what to do. The mother quickly pulls her child away, warning the boy not to look at him. The memory of the king's furious roar echoes in his mind. Get out. He reels from the realization that he was betrayed, just like a character in one of the games he used to play. But he forces himself to shake off the despair. Setting his jaw, he decides to change his approach. For now, he has something he needs to confirm and must think about what to do from here. He rises and walks away with newfound resolve. His steps lead him to a workshop. He presents the diamond to the shopkeeper, the same appraiser from the castle. The man admires the beautiful gem, but when Risel explains it's artificially made and asks if he can buy it, the shopkeeper's demeanor changes. He asks if Risel is messing with him, stating he's never heard of a shop that deals in artificial jewels. The shopkeeper exclaims that he's never heard of an artificial diamond, and that selling such a gem at a proper jewel shop would allow one to live freely for 10 years. In that instant, a critical realization dawns on Risel. The people of this world have not yet figured out how to artificially create diamonds. He finally understands. He stood before the jewel shop owner, his mind racing. He needed money, and fast, but worried about the consequences if his diamond was discovered to be artificial. He decided to test the waters, asking the shopkeeper about the cost of a local inn. The old man considered for a moment before estimating it would be around 10,000 pi. Taking a breath, he made his move, offering to sell the diamond for 70,000 pi. The shop owner reeled back in shock, stammering at the absurdly low price. He couldn't comprehend the offer, questioning if Risel was some new kind of charity worker or perhaps a scammer trying to spread false rumors. He calmly clarified his position. He needed the money immediately, and since the shopkeeper could clearly see the diamond's value, he proposed a simple deposit of 70,000 pi to start. The old man, though still flustered, reluctantly agreed, sensing the weight of the young man's circumstances. With the terms settled, the two men shook hands, finalizing their deal. As he turned and walked out of the shop, the owner cheerfully saw him off, thanking him for his business. Clutching a heavy pouch of coins, he reflected on the transaction. It had taken some effort, but he now had the money he desperately needed. He stood overlooking the town as evening settled in. He now understood that alchemy in this world was not very advanced, and the value of its currency was vastly different from what he knew. A tough road, he realized, lay ahead. Having found lodging at Marie's Inn in the downtown district, Risel lies down on the bed. The cost of 7,000 pi a night a minor concern. He sighs, exhausted from the day's events, reflecting on the unbelievable situation he has found himself in. He begins to reassess everything. He recalls the jewel shop owner's confusion about using gems for merchandise, realizing the standard of magical development in this world is vastly different from his own. This leads him to a new theory. The goddess might not be a divine being, and her summoning could have been nothing more than a form of space transfer magic. Sitting up abruptly, he questions if this is truly another world. To confirm his suspicions, he initiates quantum motion analysis magic, projecting a holographic scan of his surroundings. The analysis reveals startling differences in the laws of physics and the presence of materials he has never encountered before, confirming his doubts. He falls back onto the bed, processing the implications. If the summoning was not a divine act, then it's safe to assume the king's decision to exile him was an unforeseen event, not part of some grand game orchestrated by the self-proclaimed goddess. His thoughts then turn to his supposed purpose as a hero. He wonders if defeating the demon lord would satisfy the goddess, but then questions the very nature of a demon lord in this world. Unlike the mindless beasts of his home, he speculates that these demons might be intelligent beings with their own monarchy, not inherently evil. With a newfound resolve, he sits up. Acknowledging he knows too little and can expect no support from the humans who cast him out, he makes a decision. Instead of fighting, he will seek understanding. He will go and meet the demon lord. To do so, he first tests his own capabilities, wondering if the magic from his world still functions here. He sits cross-legged and initiates storage magic, causing a glowing blue interface to materialize in the air before him. From this magical storage, he summons a complex device, a recon satellite. Equipped with a printer, the drone is designed to ascend into the sky and conduct a surface survey, creating a map from its satellite-like view. The satellite floats out the open window on its mission to map a path to the demon lord's castle. Confident in his technology, Risel lies down to rest while it works, entrusting the task to his creation. He awakens to find it is morning. The map has finished printing, and it appears to be perfect. As he gets to his feet, however, his senses flare. He detects a presence in the room, his eyes snapping wide with alarm as he turns toward the source. He found himself surrounded. 3 cloaked figures crouched in the shadows of his room, their presence confirmed by his high-level detection magic. There were 3 of them, and he had no doubt they were assassins. The next morning, he stepped out onto the street. From a rooftop above, 2 figures watched his every move. One confirmed his identity to the other. He was the summoned hero they had seen being escorted by guards yesterday. He continued down a narrow alleyway, the gravity of his situation settling in. It was clear now that he had made a powerful enemy of the king. High above, the assassins coordinated, confirming that all units were in position and that the plan was understood. They would kill their target and retrieve his head as proof. His senses reached out, and he overheard their telepathic communication. So, these were indeed the assassins sent by the king, and they knew he was staying at this inn. A plan began to form in his mind. He would intercept their voice transmission magic and turn this situation to his advantage. Unaware that they were being monitored, the assassins on the roof made a final check. Seeing no one else in the vicinity of their target, the leader gave the command to execute the plan. In response, one of the figures raised a blowgun and, with a sharp puff of air, sent a small dart flying toward the alley below. The dart struck true, embedding itself in Risel's neck. He let out a grunt and dropped to one knee. The assassins, seeing their target fall, declared the assassination a success and prepared to move in to collect their proof. But as he knelt, Risel was already analyzing the attack. It was a fast-acting poison meant to render him unconscious, but he calculated that if he continuously deployed his protection magic, he could counteract its effects. Surrounded on a rooftop, Risel moves in a blur. As the cloaked assassins close in, he unleashes a torrent of lightning magic, a brilliant flash erupting from his position. The electrical discharge arcs through the attackers, their bodies seizing up in a violent, synchronized convulsion. In the aftermath, the assassins lie twitching and unconscious on the ground. Risel stands over them, a sphere of crackling energy coalescing in his palm as he declares his intent to make them sleep for a while. With the immediate threat neutralized, he accesses his inventory, searching for a specific item. He finds it, a multifunctional stem cell, a base material for clones he had stored away after failing to create ones with high combat abilities. A new plan forms. He realizes he can use cellular differentiation to create a perfect copy of his current body. The magic works. A perfect, naked replica of himself now stands before him. Internally, Risel decides to add clothes and even replicate the blow dart wound to make the decoy convincing. He then turns to the unconscious assassins, stating that he has cast area recovery magic and that someone will soon arrive to take care of them. His preparations complete, Risel instructs his newly created clone to head towards the Demon Lord's location, reflecting that some unwanted business had delayed him. Moments later, the assassins begin to awaken, groaning in confusion. They question what happened, one speculating that it might have been the target's defensive magic. Their eyes then fall upon a body lying motionless on a rooftop. One of them approaches and confirms that the target is dead. Frustrated by the time wasted, one of the assassins curses their target. He orders another to retrieve the head. With their grim proof secured, the group prepares to depart, their mission seemingly accomplished. After their departure, the headless corpse of the clone is left abandoned on the cold rooftop tiles. Far in the distance, silhouetted against the full moon, a forbidding castle stands atop a mountain peak, shrouded in mist. The destination of the true Risel. Under the light of a full moon, a formidable castle looms atop a cliff. Risel gazes upon it, recognizing it as his destination, the Demon Lord's castle. He approaches the main gate, a large, barred structure flanked by 2 armored guards. As he draws near, one of the guards spots him, shouting for him to halt. The guards immediately cross their spears, blocking his path. One demands to know what business a human has there. Unfazed, Risel calmly states that he wishes to speak with the Demon Lord and asks if they can guide him. His casual request enrages the guards. They scoff at the idea that a human could simply demand an audience, and one shouts at him not to mess with them, calling him a bastard. At the gates of the Demon Lord's domain, Risel stands before 2 armored guards, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. He offers a sincere apology for his unannounced arrival, politely suggesting he could make an appointment. The guards are struck speechless by his audacity. His calm demeanor is met with outrage. One of the guards shouts that there is no way they would allow a human, let alone a summoned hero, identifiable by his very clothes, to make an appointment with the Demon Lord. Risel calmly clarifies his status. While he is indeed a summoned hero, he explains that he was exiled by the king. The guard is momentarily stunned, repeating the word exiled in disbelief. He continues, suggesting that given his circumstances, including an assassination attempt by the king's agents that very morning, it shouldn't be surprising for him to seek an alliance. The guard, however, remains suspicious. He recalls a past deception by another hero who claimed to be a friend and vows they will not be fooled by the same trick again. Changing tactics, Risel notes that while brainwashing is an option, that strategy has been used before. Instead, he points toward a distant structure. He identifies a tower as the source of what he calls a pathetic excuse for a teleportation magic obstructing barrier. His dismissive term for their defenses leaves the guard utterly aghast, unable to form a complete sentence in his shock. The guard's shock turns to fury. He roars at Risel, questioning how he dares insult the Demon Lord's carefully constructed, omnipotent, all-purpose barrier. Risel simply smiles, touching his chin. "Thanks," he says, having gotten the confirmation he wanted. So it's there. Flustered by the manipulation, the lead guard scoffs. He gives up arguing and issues a challenge. If Risel thinks he can get past the teleportation obstruction, he's welcome to try. The other guard can only stammer in confusion. With a confident thumbs up, Risel declares that he doesn't need powerful teleportation magic for a barrier of such a low level. As he speaks, a complex magical array ignites on the ground beneath his feet, glowing with immense power. He gives the dumbfounded guards a final, casual wave. "See ya," he says, as his body begins to dissolve into particles of light. The guards can only stare, mouths agape, one of them wondering if what he's seeing is even real. His form dissolved into a cascade of light and digital fragments, the teleportation spell carrying him through the castle's defenses in a silent whoosh of energy. Left behind at the gate, the 2 demon guards stared in stunned disbelief. One of them stammered, "What was that?" unable to process what he had just witnessed. The intruder's essence streaked across the night sky like a comet of pure data, arcing directly toward the highest tower of the castle against the backdrop of a full moon. Within moments, the stream of light began to coalesce inside the tower. His profile took shape amidst the dissipating digital fragments. His form solidified completely, his sharp eyes already scanning his new surroundings as the last vestiges of the teleportation magic faded away. His boots touched down silently on the polished floor. He had arrived. This was the Demon Lord's room. He stood in the center of the grand chamber, his presence immediately noticed. A startled voice from across the room called out, "Who?" The question came from a young, horned girl seated upon a throne. Beside her, an attendant recoiled in terror. Fixing her gaze on the uninvited guest, the girl on the throne demanded again, more forcefully, "Who are you?" Inside the throne room, the young demon lord points an accusatory finger at the unexpected visitor, demanding to know his identity. Risel, standing calmly before her, internally assesses her power, noting that she possesses about 100 times more magic than the guards at the gate and a decent amount of strength. She reacts with disbelief, questioning how a human could be in her castle and why her teleportation barrier failed to stop him. Unfazed by her shock, Risel simply asks if she is the Demon Lord. He offers a polite apology for passing through her barrier without asking. The girl confirms that she is indeed the Demon Lord, though she remains baffled, asking again who he is and why he is there. She internally finds the fact that he simply passed through her barrier to be ridiculous, while Risel silently expresses relief that he didn't destroy something she worked hard to create. As Risel casually straightens his uniform, the Demon Lord watches him with intense suspicion, trying to discern his identity and motives. He then places a hand over his chest and introduces himself as Risel. He explains that he was originally summoned to this world as a hero, but was exiled under certain circumstances. Because of this, he is on neither the humans nor the demons' side, and he has come today to ask her about the world. Risel presses his point, asking once more if she is the Demon Lord, stating that he, the summoned hero, is here to ask questions. This declaration finally breaks her composure. A dark aura erupts around her as she furiously shouts at him not to mess with her. As her power flares, he realizes his error. He thinks to himself that he must have chosen the wrong method to approach her. In her rage, the Demon Lord unleashes a powerful blast of energy directly at him, screaming that he is impudent. Risel simply raises a hand, erecting a barrier to block the incoming attack. The blast impacts his defense, shattering the throne room floor, but leaving him completely unharmed. As he holds his ground, he considers the troubling situation. He has no proof to show her that he was fired as the hero. The attack subsides. A smirk forms on the Demon Lord's face as she acknowledges that he is quite competent. Standing amidst the rubble, Risel looks back at her, wondering what he should do now. He stands completely unfazed as the remnants of the Demon Lord's attack crumble around him. A guard rushes to her side, frantically asking if she is all right. The Demon Lord, clutching her staff, can only stare in stunned silence, her mind racing with a single question. Just who is this man? The attendant echoes the sentiment, shouting for the guards to be careful as the Demon Lord's attacks had no effect on him. One guard expresses his disbelief, but his comrade remains resolute, declaring that their sole duty is to eliminate the intruder, regardless of the difficulty. As they prepare to engage, Risel calmly analyzes their strength, estimating their combat ability to be about 80% of the Demon Lord's. He concludes that continuing to prove his harmlessness is pointless, yet killing them would be an outright declaration of war. Facing the two demon guards, Risel raises a hand, a complex, magical sigil materializing in the air before him. He acknowledges to himself that this display might be perceived as a threat, but it is necessary to make them understand that peaceful negotiation is their best option. Before he can proceed, two impossibly fast slashes cut through the air, cleanly severing the heads of both guards. From her throne, the Demon Lord cries out in horror, shouting the names of her retainers. Jakku, Serena. The force of the unseen attack sends Risel stumbling backward as the headless bodies of the guards stand momentarily before collapsing. The attendant, Serena, watches in stunned silence, her hand raised to her mouth in disbelief. A moment later, the guards, Jakku and his companion, are standing again, completely unharmed. They touch their necks in confusion, with Jakku stating he was certain he'd been hit. The Demon Lord is equally baffled, questioning how they could have revived. Nearby, Risel calmly states that he never intended to kill them in the first place. He turns to the bewildered guards with a placid expression, telling them they are overreacting. He casually asks if they truly believe they would die just because their heads went flying. In response to his nonchalance, the Demon Lord leaps to her feet, pointing an accusatory finger. She shouts that there has never been a spell that allows someone to survive decapitation, furiously declaring that he is the strange one here. Her attendant, Serena, quickly adds that Her Majesty is the Demon Lord because she is the strongest, calling Risel's actions ridiculous. Risel, however, cuts her off, calmly stating that this matter is beyond their common understanding and tells her to cease her unnecessary remarks. The sharp tap of a high-heeled shoe echoes in the silent room. The Demon Lord, now composed, reminds Risel of his stated purpose for being there, to gather information. A pleased smile forms on Risel's face as he expresses his gladness that she is finally in the mood to answer. With a confident smirk, the Demon Lord agrees, granting him permission to inquire about anything he wishes. As she maintains her smug expression, her attendants whisper worriedly behind her, still unsure if Risel is an enemy. The Demon Lord, however, quietly muses to herself that if it comes to a fight, she supposes she would just have to give up. She explains her decision to her anxious attendant. Acknowledging that she initiated the conflict, the demon lord reasons that instead of continuing to suffer damage, it is far better to bet on the slim hope that this man could become an ally. She expresses a strong feeling that they should simply talk things through, silencing her subordinate's protest. Turning her attention to Risel, she dismisses any need for concern and instructs her guards to stand by outside. Risel, observing the exchange, internally notes that while the situation had become quite rough, it finally appears to be settling down. The order leaves her guard hesitant and her attendant, Serena, visibly worried, but they do not voice any further objections. Despite their reservations, they comply. As Serena and the guards depart from the throne room, she formally accepts the command, leaving Risel to wait alone. Having settled into the throne room, the young demon lord looks down at Risel. With the initial hostilities seemingly resolved, she invites him to voice any questions or requests he might have. Risel offers a simple word of thanks, his expression calm. He begins by questioning the premise of his summoning, asking if it is true that the human race is on the verge of being dominated by an expanding demon race. The demon lord's response is immediate and absolute. That notion is entirely wrong. When he asks what she means, she clarifies that everything he has heard is incorrect. She hands him a rolled-up scroll, explaining the true state of affairs. She reveals that for hundreds of years, the demons have not grown stronger, but have actually become weaker. They have never considered conquering humanity. On the contrary, it is the humans who have been forcing unfavorable conditions upon them. Risel takes the scroll, his expression shifting to one of surprise. He examines the document, feeling the distinct magical signature of the king emanating from it. He realizes with certainty that this is an original, binding contract between humans and demons. His expression turns thoughtful as he considers the implications. The demon lord seems to confirm his unspoken thoughts, and he affirms her conclusion with a simple, certain yes. He unrolls the scroll further, his eyes widening in shock as he reads a specific clause. It dictates that if a human commits a crime within demon territory, they will be judged by human laws, with demons bearing no responsibility. The reverse, however, is not true. He stares at the text, aghast, wondering aloud how such an unreasonable contract could possibly exist. In response, the demon lord explains the history. Generations ago, the previous demon king was killed by the hero. Tradition dictates that the strongest demon becomes the new demon lord, but at that time, it was clear that no one among them could possibly defeat the hero. She continues, her profile etched with grim finality. The contract is an ultimatum. If she and her people were to defy its conditions, the hero would return to take her throne and kill her. Risel absorbs this revelation, his fist clenching on the arm of his seat. The pieces begin to fall into place, and he murmurs his understanding. He continues to ponder, his hand now on his chin. A critical question forms in his mind. If a hero of such power already exists, why did the goddess summon him and the others? He wonders if she simply summons a new hero every time one dies, but the current situation makes that explanation feel incomplete and deeply suspect. He broke the silence, posing a question to the demon lord. Can I ask one thing? Is that hero still alive now? The young ruler on the throne seemed surprised by his inquiry, her eyes widening slightly. She confirmed with a weary explaining that if it weren't for that hero, she would have already destroyed the contract. This only deepened Risel's confusion. Then why did they summon me? He asked before adding, weren't you exiled? He acknowledged his status, but questioned its relevance. Her demeanor changed, a slight, knowing smile playing on her lips as she looked at him. Then luck's on your side, she stated coolly. You barely escaped death. The word struck Risel with force, his eyes widening in disbelief as he echoed, death. The truth crashed down upon him, a chilling revelation delivered with brutal simplicity. You were summoned here as a sacrifice. Under the full moon, the demon lord looks at Risel and states that people like him are called sacrifices. The word echoes in Risel's mind, his expression hardening with shock. He quickly recovers, his gaze sharp and demanding as he asks her to explain in detail. She begins her tale, explaining that the story starts about 600 years ago, around the time the very first hero was summoned into their world. According to her, that first hero was nowhere near as strong as expected. He stood alone, no match for the 4 heavenly kings of that era, a group she reveals were the parents of her subordinates, Jack and Serena. The human leaders were extremely discouraged by this failure and ordered the goddess to summon an even stronger hero. However, all the heroes that came after were much the same. As Risel listens, the troublesome history clicks into place, leading all the way to the present. He internally questions how someone from this world could have created such an advanced magical tool for summoning, concluding it was most likely not of their own design. The demon lord seems surprised he understands everything so quickly. He then asks aloud if the goddess was the one who made that magic tool. The demon lord closes her eyes and confirms with a simple, that's right. She continues, revealing the existence of a combined hero, an entity far stronger than the demon lord of that time. The process was grim, Humans would summon heroes, force them to fight monsters and demons to grow stronger, and once they near their limits, they would be absorbed by the combined hero. With this powerful being, the humans imposed unfavorable conditions on the demons and continued summoning more heroes to fuel the cycle. By repeating this process, the combined hero became leagues stronger than it was originally. The Demon Lord concludes her explanation, stating that this covers everything. She adds the humans' justification. They never know when a strong Demon Lord might appear, so they must also create an ever-stronger hero. Risel finds the logic surprisingly straightforward. The truth settles in his mind. If what she says is true, then his real enemies are the goddess and that so-called hero. He had come to this world with the intent of making the goddess owe him a favor. His expression darkens as he considers the goddess's intent to make him, her helper, into a sacrifice. He resolves firmly that there will be no more favors for her. Turning to the Demon Lord and her attendant, Risel states that he doesn't mind her story, but will test it. A holographic grid materializes from his gloved hand as he declares his intention to gather evidence with his satellite's analysis. The Demon Lord and Serena watch, bewildered, wondering what he is attempting to do with what they perceive as some form of detection magic. He stares at a complex, glowing schematic of the palace, his analysis complete. He confirms that he has indeed found traces of the magic tool and the combined hero within the palace walls. A grim realization crosses his face as he observes the data. The souls of the absorbed heroes have been so twisted they no longer even appear human. In response to his confirmation, the Demon Lord reels back in astonishment, demanding to know how in the world he could have possibly scouted the palace. He calmly explains that it's a simple matter, provided one has the proper tools for analysis. Her composure breaks slightly as she wonders aloud if her help was even necessary for such questions. She seems overwhelmed, muttering about the high level of his capabilities and how they have nothing comparable. He reassures her, however, explaining that if it weren't for her, he would never have thought to search the palace for the combined hero at all. As she stammers, he offers his thanks for the intelligence she provided, confirming that her story appears to be true. He admits that, in fact, he would have never discovered his fate as a sacrifice without her intervention. His mind races, plotting his next move. He realizes he must corner the goddess and force her to send him back to his world. He contemplates taking the combined hero hostage, but quickly discards the idea, knowing it would not benefit the Demon Lord who had just aided him. An idea suddenly strikes him. He turns sharply toward the Demon Lord, who flinches in surprise at his intensity. Demon Lord, he begins, his eyes fixed on her. He poses a direct and startling question. Do you want to beat the combined hero with your own hands? The Demon Lord's expression hardens with resolve. She explains that the combined hero was the very origin of the unfavorable contracts and the one who murdered her ancestors. To defeat him, she declares, is her lifetime wish, both as the current Demon Lord and as a descendant of those who came before her. The Demon Lord stares at Risel with newfound resolve, agreeing to his proposal. With a confident smile, Risel declares their deal settled. He offers to personally guide her, promising that he can grant her enough power to surpass the combined hero. He then reveals his own motivation. His ultimate goal is to return to his own world. To achieve this, he must devise a way to corner the goddess into a negotiation. Hearing this, the Demon Lord asks why he is willing to go to such extreme lengths. She begins to understand that he has a personal stake in her success. Risel elaborates, stating that the hero she faces currently possesses only about 1/5 of his own true strength. He assures her that this is a level she can reach through sheer effort, though she seems overwhelmed, wondering where to even begin. The Demon Lord voices her skepticism, questioning how it could be so simple when Risel is supposedly the strongest of his race. He brushes off her concerns, promising that everything will work out as long as she follows his teachings. He will show her what she lacks and how to compensate, to the point where she should be able to visualize her own victory. Her doubts give way to determination. With a pleading expression, she fully commits to his plan. Seeing her resolve, Risel agrees, and they shake hands to seal their pact. As he tells her he's counting on her, he adds that they will be going in Spartan style, and she should get ready, a warning that visibly startles her. The word Spartan leaves the Demon Lord momentarily stunned and apprehensive. Pushing past her shock, she asks a practical question. Is there a suitable place where he can train her? He considers for a moment, mentioning a location a few kilometers away. Before they depart, however, he states his first objective, to conduct a simulation battle to accurately assess her current power level. Looking at what appears to be a magical map, the Demon Lord points to a spot she believes is their destination. Seeing how far it is, Risel nonchalantly remarks that he will simply do something about it. In the next instant, he sweeps her up into his arms, telling her to hold on tight. Startled, she questions if they are flying so close together. Her protest that she isn't ready trailing off as he simply confirms with a yup. Her words are cut short as they blast off into the night. A streak of light, with the Demon Lord's screams echoing from it, careens across the sky and slams directly into the tower of a distant castle. Their high-speed journey concludes, depositing them in the center of a vast, crumbling coliseum under a sky filled with digital-like artifacts. The demon lord gazes up at the sprawling, ancient architecture, her voice trailing off as she mutters, "You." The disorienting trip leaves the demon lord hunched over and dizzy, complaining about the sheer magical power required for such instantaneous travel. Risel, looking on with a sweat drop, offers a simple apology for the rough ride. She quickly composes herself, brushing off her momentary weakness by stating she's getting used to being surprised. Her attention then pivots sharply as she points and asks about a magical item Risel is now holding. In response, Risel presents a floating, diamond-shaped artifact. He explains it's a tool for creating a phantom world, a space where, to any outside observers, they would merely appear to be doing healthy exercises. The demon lord looks on, confused by the concept. He continues with a confident smirk, reassuring her that no matter how badly she loses within this pocket dimension, no one outside will see it. The demon lord glares, muttering about the item's trash effects, but grudgingly thanks him for the consideration. The demon lord stumbles, still unsteady. Seeing this, Risel looms over her, remarking that if she has enough energy for chit-chat, she must be ready to begin. From the floor, she defiantly confirms that she is. Now back on her feet, she stands opposite Risel, her expression set with determination. He meets her gaze with a confident smile, announcing that this time, he intends to go all out. With a shared look of excitement, Risel claps his gloved hands together. "All right," he declares with a grin. "Let the simulation begin." In a vast, empty coliseum, the demon lord stood ready, her mind racing. She wondered how he would attack, contemplating whether she should try to stop his magic directly or simply deflect it. From across the arena, Risel's hand twitched, poised for action. Her eyes widened in disbelief. In the instant she blinked, he had vanished completely from sight. She quickly deduced his strategy. His mana was spread throughout the air, a clever tactic to conceal his presence. She realized she couldn't hit him with her own magic under these conditions. Her only option was to focus and wait for the moment he gathered his power to strike. Suddenly, a glint of light from the side caught her attention. She pinpointed the source, shouting, "Over there!" But it was too late. A small, white object struck her squarely on the forehead, making her stumble backwards with a cry of pain. As she clutched her head, Risel reappeared, calmly stating that the ball would vanish in 3 seconds and that she should have tried to dodge it. The demon lord stared, stunned that the projectile was just a simple sports ball and that it had hurt so much. His voice then echoed directly in her mind, explaining that the only magic he was using was body strengthening and that he wanted her to dodge the ball. He added that he was looking forward to seeing her fight seriously. The realization that he was toying with her sent a wave of fury through the demon lord. "That bug!" She seethed internally, her knuckles turning white. Risel's confident smirk only fueled her rage. With teeth gritted in a menacing grin, she declared she would dodge it for sure this time. In the next instant, the ball struck her on the head again. Finally, she managed to react, blocking the incoming ball with a flash of magical energy from her hand. She was surprised she was able to block it. Risel's voice once again entered her mind, congratulating her and inviting her to test her magical firepower on him next. Taking a moment to analyze the situation, the demon lord considered that Risel's speed seemed to have dropped. She then questioned if his speed had ever changed at all, or if she was simply becoming accustomed to it. She decided that her best strategy would be to focus on accuracy rather than raw firepower. With newfound resolve, she unleashed a massive spell, a frame cannon. Multiple large, glowing magical circles materialized around her, crackling with immense power. Observing the attack, Risel calmly noted that it was a problem and thought he should probably raise a simple barrier, just in case. He remained perfectly still as the demon lord's massive spell hurtled towards him. A simple, glowing triangular barrier formed in its path. With a desperate roar, she willed her attack to connect, certain of its power. The frame cannon struck the barrier with cataclysmic force, erupting in a chaotic blast of dark energy that filled the chamber. As the smoke cleared, the demon lord stood panting, her energy spent. She looked down at the cracked floor, smugly asking how he liked her attack. But Risel stood untouched. His gaze, however, was fixed on the space before him, his expression one of shock. He couldn't believe it. She had actually managed to damage his barrier. Panting heavily, her breath misting in the air, the demon lord stands amidst the fractured ground left by her attack. Sweat beads on her face as she looks on expectantly, demanding, How is that? Across from her, Risel appears visibly exhausted. He internally processes the shock. She actually broke his barrier. He knows he didn't raise a weak one, and is stunned that she overcame the dimensional gap, destroying a 3-dimensional barrier with 2-dimensional magic simply by pouring in enough raw mana. His hand suddenly rests on her head, startling her. A mix of triumph and surprise colors her face as she exclaims, "I hit you." He offers a genuine smile, looking down at her. "Yeah, that was great," he praises, privately wondering how much more firepower she could display with even stronger magic. The casual praise leaves her flustered. She thinks to herself that he isn't taking this seriously at all and needs a moment to recompose herself. Before she can, however, he suggests their next trial. Wait, she protests, as he proposes they destroy the barrier next. After a brief pause, she regains her composure. So, what about a barrier? Risel turns, a small orb of light forming in his hand to illuminate the area. He then issues a challenge. I'll raise a barrier right now. Use your strongest magic and hit it. She hesitates, asking if it's truly fine to use her full power, worried it might destroy the entire area. Don't worry, he reassures her as a translucent, cubic barrier materializes. He explains that this particular barrier absorbs any attack. A bead of sweat traces a path down her cheek as she processes his claim. With a strained but determined smile, she agrees, got it. Internally, she can only marvel at just how irregular and unpredictable this man truly is. Taking a firm stance, she gathers her power. A massive, triangular magic crest ignites before her, crackling with immense energy. This is me at full strength, she roars, unleashing the spell. A blinding beam of pure force erupts from her position, slamming into the center of the transparent barrier. Behind a shield, Risel stands perfectly still, completely unfazed by the cataclysmic impact. Her eyes widen in disbelief. The attack doesn't shatter the barrier, it is drawn inside. Dark, volatile energy crackles and vanishes as her ultimate spell is completely nullified. It really absorbed it. She stammers in shock. She stood frozen, watching as the last wisp of her attack was drawn into the transparent barrier and vanished completely. Flustered, she shouted an apology for failing to meet his expectations. Risel, however, remained utterly unimpressed, coolly asking if that was all she had, and if she had a problem with his assessment. She puffed her cheeks, pondering his question. Internally, she resolved not to feel discouraged, realizing she had gained one clear insight from the exchange. He had instructed her to use everything, and she had followed his command to the letter. Risel then commented that she must be the type to see nothing in her dreams, a habit she confirmed he exhibits often. He suddenly realized his oversight and apologized for not having asked her name. She countered that she was also at fault for not introducing herself. With newfound purpose, she declared, I am the Demon Lord, Mayor Shah, and formally requested his help to defeat the entity known as the Combined Hero. Risel thanks the Demon Lord, Mayor Shah, for her sincerity, but tells her not to feel down. He explains that while her magic power is immense, her technique with magic formations needs improvement. When she asks for a simpler explanation, he illustrates the three components of magic: mana as the source tank, magic output as the size of the conduit, and magic control as the pressure. The power of one's magic is built upon this combination, much like a water hose where increased pressure creates a stronger stream. Continuing his lesson, he uses the example of a human versus a dragon. While a human's mana is insignificant in comparison, practicing magic control allows them to perform the impossible and win, as a dragon cannot use complex spells. He states they already know what is needed to help her improve. Mayor Shah realizes with dawning excitement that she can become much stronger by following this principle. Her excitement is met with Risel's weary expression as he internally laments the number of culture shocks he's experienced. He then announces that he will have her learn three-dimensional magic first. The term leaves Mayor Shah completely baffled, as she has clearly never heard of it. He explains that the magic formations she currently uses are two-dimensional, which limits her to a single formation at a time. In contrast, three-dimensional magic allows for an unlimited quantity of solid formations, which means the magic she can use can also become as large as she wants. Risel finishes his sentence with a confident smirk. Mayor Shah is stunned into silence, realizing she had never even considered such a possibility, finding the concept frightening from an outside perspective. Her shock gives way to a practical question. How can she use magic she can't even analyze? Risel admits that even he couldn't use it at birth and had to develop a training method, prompting an annoyed Mayor Shah to say he should have led with that. She then pivots, asking why he would train her when his goal is to return to his own world, suggesting he could just kill the hero himself. In response, Risel states he has two reasons. The first is to express gratitude for the intel she provided. The second, he declares, is that he wants to recruit her as a party member and bring her to his world after making her stronger. His proposal leaves Mayor Shah completely flustered and stammering. Risel calmly adds that his offer stands, but only if she's fine with it. She recovers enough to ask if this means she would have to face an opponent that even he is incapable of defeating. Risel confirms this, revealing that he has an enemy he cannot beat alone. He came to this world specifically to recruit a worthy ally to help him in that fight. He explains that the recent simulation confirmed for him that she is the perfect candidate for the role. Mayor Shah considers her position as the Demon Lord, acknowledging that he might be asking for the impossible. Despite this, she looks at him with resolve and agrees to go with him. He listens as the Demon Lord thanks him, though she notes that since he is helping her as a form of gratitude, it feels like she is receiving aid for free. Declaring that she dislikes owing favors, she announces that she has a request of her own. Intrigued, Risel prompts her to explain. She explains that she has a younger sister of a similar power level, whom she wishes to become a demon lord candidate after she departs. However, this sister was afflicted with a mysterious illness that has left her body progressively weaker and unfit for combat. Mersha asks if Risel might be able to cure her, or at least examine her. Though he admits medicine is outside his expertise, Risel agrees to do what he can, making no promises. Overjoyed, she thanks him profusely. With their new arrangement settled, they prepare to leave. Mersha, now full of urgency, tells Risel they must hurry and fly back to the palace, pointing out that her sister's room is located directly below the throne room. Risel wryly warns her not to vomit this time, a comment that makes Mersha feel dizzy just from the memory. As they travel, the demon lord's palace looms in the distance, its towers stark against the night sky and a large, full moon. In a quiet, well-appointed room, the young demon lord sits reading a book. Her concentration is broken as a shimmering, unstable portal tears through the fabric of space before her. From a portal emerges Risel, supporting a woman who stumbles forward. The demon lord gasps, recognizing the newcomer and crying out, "Wani-chan." The woman, her older sister, apologizes for the surprise entrance as the demon lord questions how they managed to bypass her supposedly perfect protective barrier. Still leaning on him for support, the sister excitedly introduces Risel to the demon lord, whose name she reveals is Cecil. She proclaims that Risel is a powerful man from another world who destroyed her barrier with ease and possesses magic erasing spells, declaring him to be stupidly strong. As Cecil quietly processes this, her sister admits to being a bit embarrassed by her own outburst. Her tone then shifts to one of gravity as she takes Cecil's hands. She explains the true reason for their sudden arrival. She brought Risel here, hoping he might have a chance to cure Cecil's illness. She offers a reassuring smile, telling Cecil that it will be fine. Even if he cannot provide a cure, she continues, simply discovering the cause of the ailment would be a significant step forward. Placing her faith in her sister's words, Cecil's expression becomes resolute. She understands and gives her consent for the examination to proceed. He agrees to begin at once. Cecil's sister asks him to be gentle, noting her sibling's frail body. Risel then kneels before the demon lord, formally introducing himself and assuring her it will be over in a second. As Cecil places her hand in his, she agrees to be in his care, prompting Risel to observe the deep trust she has in her sister. As his hand glows softly over hers, he makes his diagnosis. Hard mana veins, he states plainly. Cecil looks back at him, utterly perplexed by the term. She asks if it is a difficult illness to treat. Risel explains that it's a symptom where her mana has become stickier than normal, which adversely affects the output of her magic circuits. Dismissing her concerns, he presents a small vial containing a single pill. He explains it's an artificial nanovirus medicine, a common remedy in his world that smoothens mana. Though it will take a few days to activate, one dose will permanently cure her condition for the rest of her life. Both Cecil and her sister stare in utter disbelief at the simple, yet miraculous, solution. She looks at the small capsule Risel offers. He instructs her to swallow it, and with a trembling hand, she accepts, affirming her willingness. As she hesitates, her gaze shifts to her older sister, her expression filled with doubt. Her sister offers a reassuring smile, telling her it's okay and to place her belief in him. Bolstered by her sister's words, the demon lord places the capsule in her mouth and swallows it with a gulp. Immediately, her sister grabs her shoulders, anxiously asking if it worked. The demon lord replies that she doesn't feel any different before letting out a quiet sigh of relief. Her sister begins to panic, exclaiming that it isn't working. Risel, clutching his head in frustration, reminds her that he had just said it would take a few days. He then makes a strange offer to advance her body by a few days, which she immediately refuses. He clarifies that he will simply skip time forward by about a week, and she readily agrees. A week passes in an instant. The demon lord's eyes widen in astonishment as she feels the change. She exclaims that it's amazing. The flow of mana within her is completely different. As her overjoyed sister embraces her in a tearful hug, Risel watches with a calm expression, noting that one problem is now solved. With Risel and her sister watching, the demon lord Cecil concentrates, her hands held forward. After a moment of intense focus, she steels her resolve and announces she is ready to begin. A bright light erupts from a shattered vase on the floor. The pieces begin to levitate and reassemble. Cecil cries out in triumph, realizing her spell was a success and she had actually reverted the vase to its original state. The vase is now fully restored, glowing with residual magic. Overjoyed, Cecil marvels that this is the first time she has ever been able to use magic so easily. Risel calmly observes that she seems capable of casting high-level spells without breaking a sweat. Her sister pulls her into a tight embrace, both of them weeping with relief. She sobs that she is so glad Cecil's incurable disease has finally been cured. Cecil agrees through her own tears as Risel offers her a handkerchief. Once they've composed themselves, the sister asks Risel about the medicine he provided. He explains that the root of Cecil's problem, an element called bad manisterol, is something everyone has. His medicine, he clarifies, simply enables anyone who uses it to wield magic with unprecedented smoothness. Her expression turns serious as she processes the implications. She asks if this medicine can be mass-produced in their world. Risel meets her gaze and makes a direct offer. If he uses it on all her troops, they will all power up instantly. He then asks if she wants it. He elaborates that he has a large quantity left in his storage, enough for a complete distribution, which was originally meant for children in a country suffering from poverty. Both Cecil and her sister are stunned to learn that such a valuable resource is just sitting unused. The sister quickly recovers, declaring that regardless of its origin or intended purpose, she will gratefully use any help she can get. Risel smiles, replying that he is glad it could be of assistance. Filled with newfound energy, Cecil leaps up, shouting that she will hurry to distribute the medicine to everyone before dashing out of the room. As she leaves, her sister turns to the seated Risel with a serious proposition, making her sister his companion. Risel is visibly stunned by the sudden request. The sister, her large horn dominating the view, looks at him and states that it will be difficult. Overwhelmed, Risel can only manage a quiet, hesitant agreement. He looks down, considering the proposition, and reluctantly agrees. The Demon Lord's sister continues, explaining that Cecil is the strongest in their nation, a figure of immense belief for their people. She then adds, with a hint of vulnerability, that she would be lonely without her. As if on cue, the Demon Lord Cecil speaks up, her expression soft. She declares that if Risel truly needs her older sister, and her sister consents, then she will not object to the arrangement. Her mature response earns a small, impressed smile from Risel, who murmurs how reliable she is. Beaming with newfound purpose, Cecil enthusiastically promises to work hard enough to cover her sister's duties as well. Shifting to practical matters, he then asks if she has any experience in governing. With an embarrassed giggle, the young Demon Lord admits that she has absolutely none. Unfazed, he places a small, intricate device on the table between them, noting its potential usefulness. He explains that it is an educational magic item, an simulator capable of granting the user knowledge from any number of experts on any subject. Just as he finishes his explanation, Cecil's sister bursts back into the room, announcing she has returned after distributing all of the items. The young Demon Lord greets her warmly, then asks what has her so flustered. He turns toward the elder sister, a knowing look on his face, and remarks that she has returned at the perfect moment. She stares back, caught off guard by his comment. The sister places a hand on Cecil's shoulder and declares her intention to draw out her memories. Though initially surprised, Cecil quickly agrees, seeing it as no problem at all. A moment later, the full implication hits her. "My memories?" she exclaims in shock. She quickly connects the dots, realizing the simulator is intended to use her own experiences as the teaching material. To clarify, Risel holds up a small component from the device, instructing her to place it on her head. He reassures the worried Demon Lord that her memories will not be erased. The simulator will simply copy her experience. He expresses his relief that Cecil caught on to the plan quickly, then carefully sets the memory crystal into the simulator. As he does, Cecil, standing beside her older sister, looks on with a mix of awe and disbelief. She sighs internally, unable to comprehend how he can perform such feats, wondering what kind of being he truly is. Risel turns to her with a slight smile, remarking that the difference in their knowledge is like a gap between civilizations. Cecil's sister stands beside her, offering encouragement. "It's okay. Do it," she urges. Risel, looking on with a slight smile, notes Cecil's newfound resolution. With the decision made, a hand reaches for a device holding a memory crystal. The system is ready. Confirmation of the crystal and memory equipment setup is complete. The process is set to begin. As the import process initiates, Cecil stands with her eyes closed, bathed in a brilliant, swirling light. Her sister and Risel watch intently as the data transfer takes place. The light subsides. "Is it over?" Risel asks. A notification confirms the import is complete. The simulator for the leader of the demons is now ready. He assures them one use should be sufficient for now and instructs Cecil to press the red magic stone in the center of the console. Eagerly, she confirms she understands. Following his instruction, Cecil presses the stone, and a large, luminous screen materializes before them. "Whoa, a screen came up," she gasps in amazement. Her sister points out that a small, stylized version of Cecil herself has appeared on the display. The screen presents a question. Her sister explains that it's a scenario asking how she would deal with a particular situation. Cecil reads the prompt, recognizing it as an issue concerning the previous year's famine, and decides to choose the third option based on the provided materials. Her choice, however, does not improve the simulated crisis. Pondering what would happen if she chose option 2 instead, she tries again. This time, a correct message flashes. "Wow, I did it." Cecil cheers, realizing the second option was the best choice all along. Her sister smiles proudly. "As expected of One-E-chan," she praises, revealing that the solution Cecil just found was the very one they had actually implemented in reality. Cecil beams, exclaiming that she knew it. Her sister explains that this is how she will gain valuable experience, a method that is far from shabby. Cecil, filled with new determination, turns to her sister and vows to do her best, both for the present and for the future, acknowledging how helpful this training will be. Leaning in close, her sister whispers affectionately, "I'll be relying on you, sis." Cecil responds with a bright, happy yup, the two sharing a moment of mutual trust and affection. She watches as, the next day, Risel sits across from Cecil at a table. He announces that they will now begin stage 2 of the training, designed to help Cecil surpass the combined hero. He asks if she is ready, and Cecil enthusiastically confirms she is in his care. Cecil's sister, however, expresses concern about conducting the training in her room. Risel tells her not to worry, presenting a vase-like device he calls a magic repeller. Cecil, looking at the object, notes its oddly cute shape. He explains that the device works by repelling all magic in the room, creating an area of low magical density. However, he adds a critical detail. To achieve this, the repeller must also dissolve the magic within any organism present. The implication of this stuns Cecil. She realizes that, in a worst-case scenario, being left alone with the device could be fatal. With a worried expression, she asks if it will affect her body. Her sister, equally concerned, asks what they are supposed to do with such a dangerous item. Risel, finding Cecil's panicked reaction amusing as always, reassures them that the training won't go that far and tells them not to worry. He clarifies the purpose of the exercise. In a low-magic environment created by the repeller, she will need to actively prevent her own magic from being drawn out of her body, controlling it entirely with her will. The word hangs in the air. Cecil's expression becomes serious, her eyes wide with focus as she internalizes the concept. Control. Risel elaborates, explaining that any flaw in a complex magic circle renders it useless, which is why she must learn to control her magic in the most delicate way possible. He presents her with the first task, to light a simple candle while under the repeller's influence. With a bead of sweat on her cheek but a look of firm resolve, Cecil accepts the challenge. The young demon lord, Cecil, stares in confusion at the space before her, wondering aloud how the small flame disappeared. Her confusion quickly turns to bravado. She declares that the task is simple and tells Risel to watch her. A moment later, her face flushes with frustration as she struggles, reminding herself that, as the demon lord, such a simple thing should be nothing to her. With renewed focus, she channels her energy, her gloved hands hovering over the candle's wick. A faint spark appears as she growls with effort, calling Risel an impudent little whelp. Her effort comes to nothing. The spark vanishes, and she slumps forward with a groan of defeat, the candle remaining unlit. From across the table, Risel calmly asks if she's giving up already. In response, Cecil slams her head onto the table, wailing that her magic just dissipates. She cries out that this task isn't about delicacy at all. She remains face down, trembling with frustration as tears begin to form in her eyes. Lifting her tear-streaked face, she glares at the unlit candle with renewed resolve. She declares that she will not give in and will keep trying until she finally succeeds. With a shout of determination, she proclaims that she will do it. Watching her outburst, Risel allows a small, approving smile, thinking to himself that this is the right spirit. After her declaration, Cecil takes a brief respite with a warm drink. Risel stands and walks toward a nearby window, leaving her at the table. He rests his hand on the window frame, his expression turning thoughtful as he gazes outside, lost in contemplation. He watches as Cecil struggles, her mind a tangled mess of frustration. She squeezes her eyes shut, plugging her ears as if to block out all distraction. He reaches out, his gloved hand hovering near the dark gem on her forehead, a silent gesture of encouragement. Just then, the door opens. Cecil's sister enters, carrying a tray of refreshments with a cheerful smile. The interruption, however, only serves to shatter Cecil's concentration, causing her to cry out in annoyance. Risel turns, his expression unreadable as he observes the scene. After the brief interruption, Cecil takes a moment to compose herself. A serene smile returns to her face as she prepares to try again, but it quickly fades, replaced by a look of intense, downward-focused determination. The three of them are now seated at a long table. Risel, having taken the tray from Cecil's sister, pours tea for them, creating a moment of calm before the next attempt. In the quiet that follows, a soft boom breaks the silence. A bright, steady flame suddenly erupts from the wick of the unlit candle resting on the table. All three turn their heads in unison, their eyes wide with surprise at the sudden success. Cecil, her mouth agape, begins to speak, the single word "I" hanging in the air. She finishes her thought with a triumphant roar. "I did it." Risel looks on, impressed, and notes that for a first attempt, it's quite good. There's no magic leaking, and the flame is stable. Overjoyed, Cecil throws her arms around her sister, proudly exclaiming that she told him she would keep trying until she succeeded. Her victory achieved, the exertion finally catches up to her. Cecil collapses onto the table, wailing that she's exhausted. From his seat, Risel watches her, stating that since she has mastered this level of control, they will soon move on to more complex magic. As they look out over the castle grounds, their conversation turns to the future. Risel tells Cecil to give him a heads up when she's ready to practice attack magic, and he will teleport them to the arena. Her sister, however, groans at the thought of teleportation and asks if he can teach her anti-travel sickness magic first. Cecil, meanwhile, is simply excited, asking to be brought along next time. Her sister looks on, thinking to herself how strong Cecil has become. Under a starry night sky, a grand, empty amphitheater stands ready. In the center of its stage, a small, vase-like device emits a faint trail of sparkling particles into the air. At the center of this stage, the demon lord Cecil holds a small, spherical object. Her hands cradle it as it begins to pulse with a powerful, contained energy. The sphere of energy suddenly erupts outward, expanding into a massive, swirling vortex of dark power that dwarfs both Cecil and Risel, who stands watching her from short distance. He watches as the last vestiges of the magical sphere fade away, his expression neutral. After a moment of observation, he gives a simple verdict: she passes. She clenches her fist in triumph, a sharp-toothed grin on her face as she exclaims that the activation and deactivation went perfectly. Above her, the remnants of the energy dissipate into harmless, bubbling motes of light. Turning to Risel, she questions if they came all this way just to test her magical control. He acknowledges her progress is impressive for only a month of training and suggests they stop using the device for now. He smiles, commending her for being so observant. With a knowing look, he declares that today, he will have her learn something new. As he speaks, his power manifests. Before him, a staircase made of solid, glowing blocks materializes out of thin air, ascending step by step into the night. The demonstration culminates in a towering, translucent wall of pure energy. Risel stands before his creation, identifying it by name, Solid Magic. Cecil stares, a bead of sweat forming on her temple as the realization dawns on her. She recognizes the technique, whispering that this is solid magic, also known as object magic. She inspects the translucent wall, realizing it's formed by stacking multiple flat surfaces, a form of defensive wall magic. Risel confirms this is the basis of the technique, also known as the outer layer of magic. He continues his explanation, clarifying that building such a structure piece by piece would be too slow and vulnerable to interruption. The key to solid magic, he stresses, is instantaneous formation. He then turns to her, a slight smile on his face, and asks if she can replicate it. With a sharp-toothed grin, she confidently declares that she can. She closes her eyes, gathering her focus as magical energy swirls around her hands. Internally, she steels her resolve, repeating that she can do it if she tries. From a distance, Risel observes, noting with approval that her concentration and the fine details of the forming wall are good. Her eyes snap open in triumph as she successfully manifests a solid wall. "I did it," she exclaims, puffing out her chest and boasting that of course she could, being the Demon King. Risel calmly assesses her work, remarking that it's quite good for a first attempt. His praise quickly turns to a test. He announces his intention to check the durability of the wall she just made, startling her. A small, potent sphere of energy materializes in his hand. The sphere hurtles forward and detonates against the wall in a powerful explosion, causing Cecil to cry out in alarm. The structure holds firm against the blast, leaving her stunned that it survived the impact. She tentatively reaches out, running her hands over the wall surface and finding it completely unscathed. Risel remarks on its superior toughness compared to a simple flat construct, asking if the feeling of its strength isn't awesome. She acknowledges the wall's amazing properties, but confesses that the act of creating it herself feels unreal. Risel dismisses her awe, stating that it's just solid magic, and immediately proposes their next step, adding more layers. With a bead of sweat on her brow, the demon lord grits her teeth and agrees. A moment later, a massive, glowing magical barrier erupts around her, and she throws her arms out, triumphantly declaring that it is done. Having expended her energy, she collapses to the floor, panting but proud, exclaiming that she did it. Risel approaches with a smile, praising her good work and confirming her multi-layer magic passes inspection. Still on the floor, she excitedly tells him she made a super thick one. She lies spread-eagled on the polished floor, completely drained, admitting how tired she is and that the spell required immense concentration. Risel stands over her, acknowledging she has done well in a short amount of time, and offers to heal her. He then suggests they practice magic control and the application of solid magic the next day, asking if she needs a break. From her position on the floor, the demon lord firmly refuses. She looks up at him with fierce determination, declaring that she doesn't need a break until she has mastered the technique and has no luxury to take it easy. Seeing her resolve, Risel agrees to go a little harder on her, challenging her to face him. Sometime later, they stand together in a new location, an outdoor overlook. The demon lord gazes out at the landscape and asks Risel if this is the duty he had been talking about. He confirms that it is. Her gaze sweeps across a vast, rolling landscape of cultivated fields. She identifies the area before them as her nation's food storage, their farmland. Standing together on a high precipice, Risel marvels at the view, remarking on the difficulty of maintaining farmland of such a massive scale. The demon lord explains that it barely rains in their land, which is why generations of demon lords have been responsible for casting rain shower spells there. Risel realizes that this must be one of the reasons a demon lord needs such a huge magic pool to pour rain onto this massive field. The demon lord smirks, pleased that he noticed, but then asks if he assumes this is the only reason she was brought here. He confirms her suspicion, asking if she has figured out the structure of multi-layer rain shower magic. She replies that multi-layer magic should be quite efficient for this task, but admits that since this will be her first time using it, she is not sure if she can execute it perfectly. She admits her concern, explaining that she wouldn't want to drag her people into a potential magic explosion. Risel, with a slight smile, correctly infers her unspoken request. She wants him to keep an eye on her. The directness of his question causes her to flush with embarrassment, covering her face as she lets out a flustered cry. He watches her, noting internally that her dedication to applying her training to her duties is a clear sign of her desire to improve. She quickly recovers from her embarrassment, eagerly accepting his supervision. In response, he asks to examine her spell structure first, admitting that farming is outside his field of expertise. At his request, she begins the incantation, and a large, intricate magic circle materializes before her with a surge of power. He examines the glowing construct, identifying its various components: fertilizer, nutrition, accelerated growth, and more. Nodding in approval, he confirms that it is, indeed, a spell for blessed rain. He then instructs her to show him the complete, self-made spell. Seeing her hesitation, he reassures her not to worry, promising to immediately point out anything that needs changing. She gives a small, hesitant agreement. Taking a deep breath, she tells herself to calm down, reminding herself that this is just like her training. With renewed focus, she unleashes her power, causing multiple rings of magical energy to form around her. Risel observes the casting, satisfied that the magic circle, its structure, and the amount of mana being used are all perfect. Risel watches, impressed by the demon lord's frightening talent in making it so far on her first attempt. He offers a final piece of encouragement, telling her, "Good job, now activate it." Following his command, Cecil shouts a nervous, "Okay," as her hands, shimmering with magical energy, complete the final gestures of the spell. A colossal sphere of light erupts from her position, expanding across the sky and bathing the entire landscape in its brilliant, pulsating energy. Moments later, a gentle rain begins to fall, nourishing the parched earth and young crops. In a nearby town, a woman looks up from her basket, her expression one of quiet relief as the rain begins. From her vantage point, Cecil looks down upon the celebrating populace, a look of accomplishment on her face as she realizes, "I did it." The people below cheer, recognizing the downpour as the demon lord's blessed rain and marveling at the immense size of the magic circle. They offer their heartfelt thanks. Her moment of triumph gives way to uncertainty. She turns to Risel, her expression anxious as she asks, "How did I do?" He gives her a reassuring smile. "It was perfect," he declares, predicting that the year's harvest will be record-breaking. Having expended his own energy to support her, he suddenly collapses to his knees. Overwhelmed by his praise and her own success, Cecil's composure breaks. Tears of relief stream down her face as she whispers, "So glad." Watching her, Risel reflects with a small, surprised smile. He recalls that she didn't shed a single tear throughout all of her grueling training. Cecil, flustered, tries to hide her face, exclaiming how embarrassing it is to cry. She explains that now they won't have to rely on overpriced trades from humans. She reveals the severity of their situation, asking if he realized how desperate they were, to the point that even their food was being stolen. Risel looks stunned, finally understanding the true weight of their plight. Cecil then thanks him for his help and asks if he could also cast defensive magic on the crops. He watched as the demon Lord Cecil looked up at the sky, tears of relief welling in her eyes. She spoke with quiet joy, stating that her people could finally have full stomachs. Sharing her sentiment, Risel smiled and added that he, too, was looking forward to the harvest. Her quiet joy then erupted into triumphant, almost manic laughter. She declared that she couldn't wait to see the faces of the human traders now that their exploitative leverage was gone. This sudden, vengeful outburst left Risel momentarily speechless, only able to stammer a hesitant agreement. As the blessed rain continued to fall, the demon citizens gathered in their fields, their faces turned to the sky. Cheers and joyous cries filled the air as they celebrated the promise of a bountiful harvest and an end to their long-standing hunger. Within the human royal capital, a grand castle stands over the city under a light snowfall, a symbol of power and authority. Inside the castle, a man's hands flew to his collar, his knuckles white with disbelief as he processed some shocking news. He stammered a confirmation as the king roared in his face, demanding to know why sales were down by 95%. The king, his face contorted in rage, furiously accused him of presenting trash sales and told him not to mess with him. The merchant, trembling, could only stammer an apology as the king, flanked by a young official, bellowed, demanding to know what in the hell was happening. A female official stepped forward to deliver the report. She explained that a small delegation of merchants had met with the demon's border officers, only to be told that the demons no longer needed their trade. Their self-sustainability had surpassed 100%. The news sent the merchant, Regius, into a panic, realizing he was in mortal danger for having upset the king. The king, however, developed a sinister grin. He ordered an attack on the Demon Lord's city and then asked Regius if the three heroes were well equipped. Regius confirmed they were, without a flaw. He then detailed his ruthless plan: kill the Demon Lord and add a condition to their contract forcing the demons to buy the same amount from them forever. The young official was aghast, but the female official interjected, stating her opinion that the heroes were not strong enough for such a task. The king sighed, acknowledging he knew that much. The king revealed the true objective. According to Act 7, Section 3 of their treaty, demons are forbidden from killing any summoned hero. The plan was to force them to break this contract by killing the heroes sent to attack them. This would trigger an all-out war, allowing the combined hero to face them. The young official, horrified, pointed out that dead heroes would be unable to fuse. His face contorted with fury. The king declared that the demons were stupid and must be brought down. He proclaimed it a crisis where the deaths of one or two heroes were an acceptable sacrifice for humanity's honor. As the young official tried to object, the king screamed at him to screw off if he understood. Holding the contract scroll, the king smirked, calling the demons foolish. He vowed that whatever trickery they had used, he would make them understand that they shall not disobey humans. Frodo walks down a long, ornate hallway, the king's words echoing from the room behind him. Fragments of the plan, demon capital, attack, swirl in his mind, leaving him in a state of confused uncertainty. He pauses as another summoned hero, a young woman with her hair tied back, also listens in. Though Frodo considers eavesdropping to be beneath him, the gravity of the situation is undeniable. The woman turns toward the closed door, asking aloud if she really just heard someone in that room, discussing an invasion of the demon capital. The full, horrifying truth crashes down on Frodo as he recognizes the king's voice detailing the plan. The demons are to kill the heroes, and then a combined hero will be sent to face them, igniting an all-out war. A cold sweat beads on his forehead as he claps a hand over his mouth, the sickening realization dawning on him. The king is planning to use them all as sacrificial pawns. Inside the castle, Frodo walks down a long, empty corridor, his mind racing. He tries to dismiss his fears, reasoning that if the king truly wanted the summoned heroes dead, they would have been eliminated long ago. The thought offers little comfort. His steps echo softly on the polished floor. Despite his efforts to remain logical, a dark possibility takes root in his thoughts. What if the king genuinely intends to kill them? He stops, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. Shaking his head slightly, he tries to convince himself that he is simply overthinking things, but the unsettling feeling lingers. Far from the castle's confines, a vast, desolate wasteland of rock and dust stretches out under an empty sky. Amidst this barren landscape, the Demon Lord's sister surveys their surroundings, noting how utterly deserted the place is. Risel stands nearby, observing alongside her. She turns to him, confirming that she detects no villages or buildings in the vicinity. She asks if this remote location is where they will hold their simulation battle, explaining that his skills have improved so much over the past 6 months that a normal arena would be destroyed. He meets her gaze with a confident smirk, the wind tousling his hair. He throws the question back at her, asking if she doesn't want to go all out as well. Her expression shifts to a matching, eager grin. She replies that he knows the answer perfectly well. They stand ready for battle. She declares that she's going all out this time, and he confirms their agreement. They will not pull any punches. Instantly, she unleashes her power. A brilliant aura erupts around her as she conjures a magic spear, a bolt of pure energy that hurtles toward Risel, initiating their duel with explosive force. The volley of magic spears hurtles toward Risel. He instantly assesses the attack, realizing that a simple barrier won't be enough to block them all. In response, he conjures a solid wall, an iron barrier, to intercept the incoming projectiles. The spears shatter against his defense, just as the Demon Lord's sister anticipated. With a confident smirk, she declares her next move is ready. Risel, however, is already reacting, unleashing a magnet counter. He immediately perceives her follow-up, homing bolts of electricity. His counter successfully deflects the initial projectiles, but now the homing bolts swarm around him, crackling with energy. The sight of him seemingly controlling the chaotic electricity leaves his opponent utterly stunned. She can only stammer in disbelief, unable to comprehend how he is withstanding her attack. He curses under his breath. The homing bolts are too numerous to contain. In a burst of speed, he executes a flash step, vanishing from his position just as the bolts converge and detonate the ground where he stood. Watching the explosion, the Demon Lord's sister lets out a quiet sigh of relief. With a faint, confident smile, Risel assesses the situation. He murmurs that his opponent has done well, but now it is his turn to act. In response, a thick vapor begins to fill the desolate landscape. The Demon Lord, Cecil, covers her mouth as she identifies the substance as a mist designed to numb the senses. She struggles against its effects, desperately trying to complete a spell. Risel observes her efforts, noting with approval that she is using the same antidote magic he favors, a testament to her observant nature. However, he prepares his own counter, revealing a far more complex magic circle as he realizes her spell is more than a simple antidote. Believing her attack will connect, Cecil declares that this will decide the match. A violent torrent of dark energy erupts from her position, tearing through the air towards target. When the chaos subsides, Risel stands completely unscathed amidst the lingering energy. He casually asks if that was all she had, confirming he is perfectly fine, much to Cecil's wide-eyed disbelief. She stammers in confusion, questioning how he survived without even erecting a barrier. With a knowing smile, Risel instructs her to examine her magic circle again. Upon looking, she gasps in realization. He explains that he simply rewrote her spell's target to nothing. A trick he notes is risky against perceptive foes, as they might notice the alteration. The truth of her defeat crashes down on Cecil. She falls to her knees, lamenting that she got carried away in her desire to win and that using such a large-scale technique was a grave mistake. Looking back at her, Risel offers some reassurance. He tells her that he doubts the combined hero would be capable of rewriting magic circles, so her strategy should still be effective in that future battle. He walks closer, complimenting her tactics. He acknowledges that her plan to use quick spells while preparing a powerful finishing blow was solid, even if it took some time to set up. Standing before the stunned demon lord, he praises her for her performance. He reiterates that as long as she remains vigilant, she should not lose to the combined hero. He then extends a fist towards her in a gesture of respect. He watched as the demon lord, Cecil, met his offered fist with her own. A wide, toothy grin spread across her face as she declared that any hardship was worth it if it meant defeating the combined hero. Their knuckles connected, a silent pact of mutual resolve. A moment later, Cecil averted her gaze, a slight blush on her cheeks as she looked down at their hands. Well, anyway, she mumbled, breaking the intense moment. After their spar, they took a moment to rest amidst the rocky terrain. As Risel began to eat his sandwich, he casually asked if she truly felt that way. Perched on a nearby rock, Cecil affirmed his question, adding that the training had its fun moments as well. He smiled, expressing his relief. He confessed that he had been worried she might burn out after setting such a high goal for herself. Cecil was taken aback by his concern, but quickly added that she was highly motivated, especially since she was learning so many new things like defensive spells. Hearing her earnest response, Risel reflected internally that she was quite different from the friends he had known before. Cecil, catching his thoughtful expression, reaffirmed her vow. She had promised to become his companion. She stated with conviction, and she fully intended to keep that promise. The conversation then shifted to the sandwich Risel was eating. Cecil exclaimed that it was amazing, proudly stating that she and someone named Sequin had made them. The revelation that this Sieg could cook and was apparently ranked first or second in the entire kingdom for his culinary skills was a surprise. Risel mused to himself that one truly can't judge a book by its cover. Having completed their task, Cecil stretches languidly and suggests they should head back. Standing nearby, Risel calmly agrees. As they prepare to depart, Risel suddenly stops, his attention caught by something unseen. Noticing his pause, Cecil turns and asks what's wrong. The ground itself provides the answer, erupting as a colossal dragon bursts forth from the earth. With a deafening roar, the ancient beast bellows, demanding to know who dares disturb its slumber. Cecil recoils, her body trembling in shock at the sight of the creature. Risel, however, seems less surprised and turns to her, asking if she knows this dragon. She furiously denies it, shouting that it's her first time ever seeing one. After calling him an idiot, her expression shifts as she recalls a legend. She explains that about 10,000 years ago, a civilization on this very land was destroyed by a single dragon, one that looked just like this. The legend tells that amidst the dragon's destruction, the few survivors were allowed to thrive and give birth to a new generation, but only under the strict condition that they never disturb the dragon again. As the weight of her story hangs in the air, the massive clawed foot of the awakened beast slams down. The tale continued. She recalls, and that legendary dragon had a name. Its name is John Cena, the slumbering ancient dragon. The realization strikes them both with the force of a physical blow. They have awakened something truly unbelievable. Cecil is frozen in a state of comical shock, her jaw hanging open. Risel, his face suddenly serious, murmurs that they have done something terrible. His seriousness vanishes in an instant. However, as he brightly suggests they should just punch the dragon back to sleep. Exasperated, Cecil tells him to give her back her nerves. From below, a deep, rumbling laugh echoes from the ancient dragon. The colossal beast addresses the puny demon, revealing it overheard her whisper about wanting to punch it. As Cecil stammers in surprise, the dragon's rage erupts, and it bellows its intent to turn their arrogant attitude into ash. As a torrent of destructive energy erupts from the dragon's maw, Cecil quickly reacts, shouting to activate an absorb barrier to protect them. The barrier holds, and the attack dissipates. Cecil stares in disbelief, realizing she successfully blocked the ancient dragon's assault. Risel calmly appears beside her, remarking that she surpassed this dragon long ago, leaving her utterly bewildered. He continues, explaining that with her current power, she should be able to defeat the slumbering dragon in a heartbeat. The dragon, enraged by their casual dismissal, roars that they have only blocked a single one of its attacks. Elsewhere, a powerful draconic figure observes, recalling the terms of an old agreement. According to this pact, should the ancient dragon awaken, the humans' combined hero is tasked with its subjugation. The demons, considered not strong enough, are relegated to a support role, providing resources and acting as bait. The very thought of this arrangement enrages Cecil. She furiously declares that she will defeat the creature herself, bring back its corpse, and nullify the demeaning agreement. Risel, watching her, Riley notes that she's making the face of a true demon lord now. He then encourages her, calling her by her name, Mare Shah. He frames the battle as a memorable first fight and perhaps even good practice for an eventual confrontation with the combined hero. A grin spreads across Mersha's face. She declares that her first real fight being against an ancient dragon is thrilling, and her arms can't wait. With newfound resolve, she leaps towards the dragon, vowing to hunt it for the sake of the demon's future. She screams that she will burn it until not even ashes remain. She channels her power, gathering crackling energy into her hands as she prepares to unleash a magic spear. The spear of pure magic slams into the ancient dragon's chest. In response to the blow, the beast roars in defiance, bellowing for her to feel its wrath. The colossal beast was struck by a barrage of magical explosions, each one detonating with blinding force against its ancient scales. The onslaught proved too much. With a final, shuddering groan, the dragon's massive form crashed to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. The battle was over in an instant. Mare Shah stared, bewildered by the sudden victory, questioning if it was truly finished. She turned to Risel, who observed the fallen creature with a calm, analytical gaze. He remarked that it seemed Mare Shah had grown far beyond his expectations, but that the dragon itself had been disappointingly weak. When Mare Shah asked what they should do with the body, Risel declared his intent to finish it off completely, just in case it woke up, and then use the remains as a bargaining chip in negotiations with the humans. His practical approach was met with an immediate counterproposal from Mare Shah. She pointed out that they now had proof of defeating the dragon, and questioned what to do with it. She then excitedly suggested they couldn't possibly waste the body of a 1,000-year-old dragon and should use it as materials for magic tools. Her suggestion sparked something in Risel. His eyes widened as a new idea struck him. He let out a small laugh, confirming to a curious Mare Shah that he had just thought of something interesting. He smiled, telling the impatient demon lord not to rush. He explained that he would need her help with his plan and would lay it out for her clearly. Later, back within the walls of the demon castle, Risel presented Mare Shah with a gift. She was happy but confused by the sudden gesture, but he simply told her to accept it for now, promising to explain the reason later. As she took it, her eyes fell upon the object. It was a beautifully crafted item, sparkling with latent power. It was a magic sword, forged from the very essence of the slumbering ancient dragon they had just defeated. Risel explained that it was a weapon only she could use. Because it was made with her own magic circles, only someone of her bloodline could activate it, and by channeling magic into it, she could unleash any of the magic circles she had stored within. He called her by her true name, Cecil. Overwhelmed by the magnificent gift, she stammered that she couldn't possibly accept something so amazing. Risel simply stated that it would be a waste for him to use it. She looks at her older sister, who explains the grim reality. Even if they defeat the current combined hero, there's no guarantee others won't appear. Her sister declares that Mare Shah will be the one to face them in her stead. Stealing her resolve, Mare Shah agrees, vowing to defeat the combined heroes in her sister's place. Having made her choice, she firmly grips the new sword. She internally acknowledges that she will be the one fighting once her sister is gone. Out loud, she formally accepts the weapon and the duty it represents, stating that if that is the case, she understands. Nearby, Risel listens with a slight smile. His sister-in-law expresses her disbelief and admiration that he was the one to defeat the ancient dragon. He casually mentions he'll place the sword into his storage magic, lamenting that it's too bad he wasn't the one who actually defeated the beast. His words catch Mare Shah by surprise. Her sister puffs out her chest with pride and loudly proclaims that she was, in fact, the one who defeated the slumbering ancient dragon. Mare Shah is utterly amazed by the revelation. Risel wryly comments from the side that she was quite scared at first, a remark she overhears. Her sister then turns back to Mare Shah, asking if Risel used everything from the dragon to make the sword. Before Mare Shah can process, her sister cheerfully announces that since there are plenty of leftovers, they will hold a grand festival for everyone. The idea of a festival with dragon meat as the main dish proves too tempting for Mare Shah to resist. Her sister enthusiastically agrees, suggesting they invite everyone in the city to share in the feast. Taking charge, Mare Shah declares she will summon the workers to begin preparations at once. Her sister then delegates the task of butchering the dragon to Risel, who accepts, assuring them he will handle it with the utmost care and precision. Soon after, a great hall within the castle is filled to capacity. Demons from all walks of life gather around long tables laden with food, a celebratory atmosphere buzzing through the crowd. As they feast on the dragon meat, the citizens murmur in disbelief. They can't believe they're actually eating the flesh of a legendary beast, remarking on how delicious it is. One explains that while a dragon's meat is normally tough, this one's is tender because it had been asleep for millennia. Observing the joyful scene, the elder sister remarks on how wonderful it is to enjoy such a peaceful moment. Mayor Shah, filled with determination, vows to do everything in her power to maintain this peace forever. However, Risel brings them back to reality, stating that they haven't solved anything yet. He reminds them that the combined hero's strength is on a completely different level than the dragon's, and that the real fight starts now. Adding to the grim assessment of the combined hero, Cecil's sister confirmed her own knowledge of the situation. She acknowledged that their foe is backed by a shameless goddess, a dangerous entity who has been manipulating humanity from the shadows for millennia. With her true motives and capabilities unknown, she represents a significant, unpredictable threat. In response, the young demon lord, Mayor Shah, expressed her confidence, believing that she and Risel would be able to handle the coming fight. Her sister concurred, stating that they would need to unite their efforts for this purpose. Beside her, Risel quietly agreed. Mersha's demeanor shifted, her face twisting with a ferocious grin. She declared that the battle was hers, already picturing how she would corner their foes and internally delighting at the prospect of unleashing her full power. Her sister smiled knowingly, reminding Mayor Shah that since she would be leaving after the battle, all diplomatic responsibilities would fall to her, and she must not make any compromises. This sudden, intense bloodlust from the young demon lord was startling. Risel could only stare, a single thought echoing in his mind. Scary. Beside him, Mersha's ferocious confidence evaporated, replaced by a nervous sweat as she meekly deferred to him. The demon lord, Cecil, slumps over, utterly stuffed from her meal. With a groan of satisfaction, she declares that she cannot possibly eat another bite. Her older sister watches from nearby, chiding her for such sloppy behavior. Unbothered, Cecil flops onto a couch, patting her full stomach. Risel observes the scene, thinking to himself that she hardly acts like a fearsome demon lord. His silent judgment does not go unnoticed. Cecil's sister turns her sharp gaze upon him, and the two lock eyes in a moment of silent, crackling tension. The standoff is broken as Risel's attention shifts. He confirms that he has noticed something, and Cecil, now alert, specifies the disturbance. 3 individuals are at the front gate. She wonders if he has any ideas, noting that their combat powers vary. Outside the castle walls, 3 figures stand silhouetted against the dark sky. They are the summoned heroes. The heroes, Banza, Frodo, and Leol, gaze up at their destination. Banza remarks with surprise that it only took them a few months to arrive, calling it an anticlimax. Frodo looks on with a grim expression as Leol silently takes in the sight of the demon's castle. Ignoring Frodo's attempt to hold him back, Banza strides forward confidently. He announces that their target is the demon lord and he will handle the talking, then bellows towards the gate, demanding the demons bring out their lord immediately. Frodo clicks his tongue in annoyance at the reckless move. His shout is met with scorn from the 2 demon guards at the gate. One mockingly asks what an impolite orc wants, refusing passage. The insult visibly angers Banza, who cracks his knuckles, seeing this as a good warm-up. The other guard stands firm, vowing to defend the door with their life. Back inside, Risel, Cecil, and her sister watch the confrontation unfold on a large viewing screen. Cecil's sister sighs, acknowledging the difficult situation they are in. Risel agrees, stating that they have little choice but to go. He then pauses, remembering a crucial detail. He is supposed to be dead. He muses that he cannot just barge in wearing his current uniform. Cecil, looking up at him, asks if he plans to change, and he confirms that he will. At the castle gates, Banza lunged forward, blade drawn, roaring a challenge at the demon guard. Here I go. Come at me. His strike met the guard's defense in a brilliant explosion of force. The guard let out a grunt, holding his ground against the powerful blow. The clash subsided, revealing not the guard, but a large, dark cocoon pulsating with energy. Banza stared, startled, as Leol called out in concern. The heroine with the bow recognized the phenomenon, identifying it as a type of magic. From within the magical construct, a woman with long, light hair and horns emerged, Risel standing silently behind her in his dark cloak. She glared at the heroes, her voice cold as she addressed the filthy intruders, reminding them that they were committing a crime by being in the demon lord's castle. She exuded a powerful aura, prompting Banza to identify her as an upper-class demon. Frodo quickly warned him against another attack. The horned woman offered to gather troops and eliminate the heroes, but Risel, still cloaked, intervened. He stated it was fine, expressing a desire to speak with them and perhaps get some answers. Heeding Risel's intent to talk, Frodo told Banza to wait, explaining that he had an idea and needed some time. Banza reluctantly agreed, though he privately noted that the cloaked demon was a cocky one. Frodo then stepped forward, addressing the 2 demons directly. He began with an apology for their impolite actions, acknowledging that they were not from this world and understood they were facing a superior demon. He then stated they just wanted to know one thing. He politely asked if they would listen, though it might sound rude. Behind him, Banza and Leol questioned if this was a battle plan, but decided to trust Frodo's expertise and strategy. Meanwhile, the horned woman communicated telepathically with Risel, expressing her irritation. She questioned if all summoned heroes were like this, noting how they pushed to the front gates and asked for a fight, only to now want to talk, just like the ones who caused so much trouble before. Ignoring her internal frustration, she was met with Frodo's question. Hero, combine. Do these words ring any bells? The query caught her completely off guard, her eyes widening in surprise. Her reaction confirmed Frodo's suspicion, and he pressed his advantage. The horned woman admitted she knew the words. At that moment, Risel communicated with the demon Lord Cecil, asking for instructions now that Frodo seemed to be onto something. Cecil decided to handle it, instructing her sister to prepare a teleport to change their location. The sister acknowledged the command, and they prepared to move. As the teleportation spell envelopes them, Frodo attempts to project calm, insisting that everything is fine. His companions, however, are not convinced. Banza and Leol, caught in the disorienting light, demand to know what is happening. A massive, glowing rectangular magic circle forms around them, its intricate runes pulsing with immense power. The three heroes can only stare upwards in stunned silence as the spell takes full effect. Banza expresses his astonishment, remarking that he has never seen a magic circle so large and detailed. Leol quickly rebukes him, stating that this is not the time for admiration. A dark realization dawns on Frodo. He murmurs that they were tricked, concluding that the demons never had any intention of negotiating. The light fades, leaving the heroes kneeling on the cold floor of a vast chamber. A commanding female voice pierces the silence, ordering the summoned heroes to lift their heads. Banza curses under his breath as they find themselves at their captor's mercy. Lifting their heads, the men see a young girl with prominent horns looking down on them with a confident smirk. She formally welcomes them, announcing that they have been granted an audience with the Demon Lord. She stands on a raised dais, arms spread wide in a theatrical gesture. With an air of absolute authority, the horned girl declares, "I am the Demon Lord." Her declaration is met with utter shock. Banza questions how this child could be the Demon Lord, while Leol marvels at the power required to teleport them all at once. Frodo can only stammer in disbelief at the word audience. The Demon Lord offers to tell them everything they need to know about this world, inviting them to ask anything. Frodo immediately takes the chance, pleading to know what a combined hero is and what the true purpose of their summoning was. From her throne, she explains that the term is exactly as it implies. For decades, summoned heroes like them have served as mere fodder to be combined. This combined hero, she reveals, is the human's ultimate trump card and the arch-nemesis of all demonkind. The revelation sends Banza into a rage. He grabs Leol, shouting for solid proof against the human kingdom and accusing the Demon Lord of trickery. Frodo, however, looks on with grim acceptance, muttering to himself that he knew it all along. As the heroes reel from the revelation, the Demon Lord gestured to a horned man beside her throne. "Hey, your turn," she said, acknowledging his presence. The other heroes, Banza and Leol, stared in confusion, asking who this new figure was. The horned man greeted them calmly, stating it had been a while, and noted to himself that they clearly didn't recognize him in this particular form. The hero's attention snapped to Risel as he stepped forward. They reacted with utter shock, with Frodo even blurting out a question about him having been dead. Risel ignored the outburst, asking, "What about now?" He declared he had something to show them, and produced a small, glowing device. He offered it as a way for them to confirm the truth with their own eyes, though Banza remained suspicious, asking if it was another trick. He activated the object, which cast a large, luminous projection into the center of the room. The image depicted a grand office, dominated by a large desk and an ornate chair. A figure could be seen standing before the desk, overlaid with the glowing number 39,124. The other three heroes gasped in recognition. They identified the space as the king's office, their shock mounting as they questioned how Risel could possess such detailed knowledge of the palace's inner sanctums. From her throne, the Demon Lord watched their reactions with a satisfied smirk, remarking how convenient their understanding was. The projection showed the man standing before the king more clearly, a figure they had never seen within the palace walls. Banza scoffed, saying the man looked like a normal human, while an agitated Leol accused Risel of trying to trick them. Risel calmly explained that this was the combined hero, the result of fusing heroes together. He then drew their attention to the number floating above the figure, revealing it was the combat power he had read from the man the very moment he was summoned to this world. The number 39,124 hung in the air, a testament to immense power. Leol's mind raced, questioning why the kingdom would need them if they already possessed someone so strong. He theorized that this must be the fruit of all the heroes combined thus far. The horrifying truth crashed down upon them. Frodo realized they could never return to their world. Leol despaired, crying out that he would never see his family again. Banza clenched his fist, enraged at how they had been manipulated. The demon lord drove the point home, confirming that from the very beginning, they were nothing but fodder. Leaning forward on her throne, she elaborated that this deception is the fundamental truth of their world. For years, she explained, the demon race has been suppressed by the overwhelming force and numbers of the human kingdoms. Her eyes narrowed, her voice laced with cold fury. She spoke of the hatred born from the torture inflicted upon her people, the pain of losing family, friends, and companions. With chilling conviction, she declared that the demons would not let the humans get away with it. She remained on her throne, observing the hero's desperation. Frodo, his face contorted in fear, pleaded for help, offering to do anything, even become a slave, if she would spare them. The demon lord then turned her gaze to his companions, Banza and Leol, and coolly asked for their thoughts. The other heroes quickly echoed Frodo's desperation. Banza, stammering, insisted he had to return home no matter what. Leol chimed in, begging for his life as well. Together, their voices joined in a chorus, pleading with the Lord of Demons to show mercy to them, whom they now called fools, and to save them. Their desperate cries were met with a chilling transformation. A slow, cruel smile spread across the demon lord's face as she leaned forward slightly. I see, she stated, her voice dripping with malice. In that case, I'll give you your first order. Her command was simple and absolute. The three of them were to become dead corpses. The command struck them silent. Banza, Frodo, and Leol could only stare forward, their faces masks of pure, uncomprehending terror. The hope that had fueled their desperate pleas was instantly extinguished, replaced by the cold certainty of their doom. Within the castle, the king reviews a legal matter. He considers the case of an adventuring party, a mix of humans and demons, where a fight resulted in the deaths of the demons. The human survivors were judged to have acted accidentally. He reflects that while past precedent would have meant execution, they will instead receive a mere year in prison. In another office, a bearded official confirms the details of the same report. He sighs, annoyed at the hassle of the court proceedings and paperwork. As he complains, a brilliant ring of light suddenly materializes in the air above his desk. The light is followed by a deafening crash that shakes the building. The king is thrown from his seat, startled, wondering aloud if a pillar has fallen. Elsewhere, the official lets out a terrified scream. The source of the noise is revealed. A body has crashed through the ceiling. Frodo, one of the summoned heroes, lies motionless on the floor. The king stares, his face a mask of horror. It is not just one body, but three. The corpses of Frodo, Banza, and Leol are sprawled across his floor. He stammers, unable to process the gruesome sight. The bearded official, in his own office, recoils from the same scene. He notices with dawning terror that there are gaping holes torn through their torsos. His mind races, questioning why these bodies have appeared in his office. He clutches his head, sweat beading on his brow. This can't be real. He desperately tries to convince himself that it must be a nightmare. The scene shifts to an hour earlier, inside the demon lord's castle. Cecil sits upon her throne with Risel standing beside her. Before them stand the other summoned heroes. She addresses them, issuing her first command. Go ahead and become dead corpses. Her words are met with immediate outrage. Banza, Frodo, and Leol shout in disbelief, demanding to know what she means. They realize with dawning horror that she has been tricking them all along. In the face of their fury, the demon lord remains perfectly composed. Her expression is cold and unyielding as she replies, I told you, I speak only the truth. She bursts into laughter, finding the heroes' dumbfounded expressions utterly amusing. Her attendant, Risel, looks on with weary concern, asking if she shouldn't stop teasing them. The other heroes, Banza, Frodo, and Leol, are still reeling in shock. Turning away with a slight smile, she apologizes, admitting she was holding a bit of a grudge. Risel observes that Banza is now angry, and asks if she can't at least limit her pranks. His face contorted with frustration, Banza shouts that he's dumb and tends to act before he thinks. Because of this, he demands an explanation that even he can understand. Beside him, Frodo and Leol look on, equally tense. The demon lord's expression softens as she tells Banza not to insult himself, adding that she likes honest men like him. She then turns her gaze away, a thoughtful sound escaping her lips. She then turns to Risel, asking if she can leave the rest of the explanation to him. He calmly agrees. His agreement does little to soothe the other heroes. Banza exclaims that they survived by a thread. Frodo, looking directly at Risel, demands to know how he fooled the assassins and the king while they were all told he was dead. Leol speculates, wondering if it was some kind of special illusion magic or if Risel had brainwashed them. He gives them a simple, shocking answer. He made a fake body. The revelation stuns the heroes. Banza looks horrified. Frodo finds it disturbing, but Leol's eyes widen in understanding. Risel clarifies with irritation that he created his own body, annoyed at the implication he would kill someone. The demon lord laughs, noting that the others don't trust him at all. Banza and Frodo, however, misinterpret his words, concluding that he must have murdered someone in this world and used their body. Banza recoils in terror, shouting that he can't deal with ghosts. Frodo dismisses his fears and asks if this means Risel is a fake. Risel explains that while his world has researched clone spells, the technology isn't viable yet. He then reveals a small, glowing cube, a multifunctional cell, which he used to create a clone by mixing a bunch of spells together. The others look on in awe. As Frodo asks what a clone is, Leol theorizes about its nature. Banza admits the idea of a doppelganger scares him. Risel begins to explain that the clones can't be sustained, but Banza interrupts, troubled. He states that even if it's a clone, it's still alive, and that irks him, though he concedes it's a better fate than dying in battle. He recoils in surprise before shouting. Anyways, as the other heroes look on, Risel faces the demon lord, Cecil, declaring that they must use clones this time. Cecil protests, insisting she will go with him, but Risel dismisses her, telling her that he doesn't care what she says. He is proceeding with his idea. With his decision made, Risel's gloved hand clenches, a faint shimmer of magic gathering around it. In the next moment, 3 naked, identical copies of Banza, Leol, and Frodo stand before them. Banza is horrified, exclaiming that it looks just like him. Frodo observes that it is a high-grade clone. Risel explains that these clones cannot sustain themselves, and that they will be used to fake the heroes' deaths. Leol questions the plan, pointing out that simply dumping the bodies in human territory would be dangerous, and they might decompose before being identified. Risel agrees, but reveals he has a surefire method. He will send them directly to the king's office, along with a letter imbued with his magic. Meanwhile, in the royal castle, the king slumbers fitfully in his bed. An attendant leans over him, urgently trying to wake him by calling out his title. The official explains with distress that they heard screaming and found him surrounded by corpses. As the king, whose name is Raji's, begins to stir, the official exclaims with relief that his majesty is finally awake. Now sitting up and fully alert, the king recalls the sight of the bodies. His face is a mask of shock as he loudly demands to know what is going on with the corpses. The bowl-cut official, looking nervous, begins to explain. He reports that after identification, they're certain the bodies are the 3 summoned heroes who were sent to the Demon Lord's castle. Hearing this, the king's expression darkens as he concludes that the Demon Lord has finally crossed the line. Another official, a man with a dark beard, steps forward holding a flat, rectangular device. He suggests that this might be the answer to how the bodies arrived so quickly. The king looks at the object with a stern expression, asking what it is. He explains that the device was placed beside the bodies with a letter. It is a teleportation device with an astonishing radius of 20,000 kilometers. Given that the Demon Lord's castle is about 4,000 kilometers away, the king realizes her threat was no mere bluff. He demands to know about the letter, his voice tight with suspicion. How could the damned demons have created something so incredible? The official, sweating with anxiety, quickly presents the document. As he reads, the Demon Lord's taunting words fill his mind. The letter, signed by Demon Lord Melshah, mockingly thanks him for the gift of the 3 summoned heroes, stating she has sent back the remaining parts. It declares that the demons have handled the slumbering ancient dragon on their own, nullifying their prior agreement and accepting the heroes' declaration of war. A final, infuriating postscript notes that dragon meat is extremely delicious. The king seethes, his knuckles cracking under the strain. He erupts, slamming his fist down and roaring about the stupid letter. His attendant pleads with him to calm down, but the king is incensed, interpreting the Demon Lord's words as a direct challenge. He fumes that they were supposed to take the initiative, yet the demons have declared war on them first. The official named Regia's attempts to reason with him, suggesting the letter is just words and that they should send a scout first. The king rejects this counsel outright. He commands Regia's to prepare the combined hero for battle, ordering him to burn the demons' territory down. When Regia's hesitates, the king's voice drops to a menacing whisper, asking if he would like to be executed for treason. The official immediately acquiesces. He internally seethes, vowing to send the combined hero to remind the insolent demon lord of her place. As he plots, a peal of triumphant laughter rings out from the castle into the moonlit night. The source of the laughter is revealed to be the demon lord herself, celebrating with Risel and the other summoned heroes. She gleefully announces that the king completely fell for the pranks Risel pulled. The other heroes stare in disbelief, one observing that she's just a bratty girl. Her attendant, Serena, confesses her own disbelief that the king would fall for the entire ruse. Risel calmly explains that he anticipated the king's defiance, which is why he was the one who suggested adding a button to the device that would deliver a shock. Just as he predicted, the king's finger is shown pressing the button. The demon lord cheers that he actually did it, and Risel smirks with satisfaction, confirming that the delivery will now reach its destination. Meanwhile, the other heroes reflect on the situation. Banza expresses his shame for not realizing the truth sooner, given the luxurious treatment they received. Frodo remarks that being cloned doesn't seem so bad compared to the alternative of being combined, an idea he hates. Risel observes their relaxed state, commenting that they are too lax. Their conversation is interrupted by a knock. A voice from outside announces the arrival of the teleportation device used to send the food. Risel, seated and waiting, acknowledges the arrival and grants them entry. He accepted the letter from the demon lord, who was taking her leave. She cheerfully told him she would rely on him again in the future, and as she departed, he acknowledged her with a simple, "Good work." Having returned to the main chamber, the demon lord looked back towards Risel and the others, asking aloud what the reply from the humans said. In response to her question, Risel's lips curled into a confident smirk. As the other summoned heroes watched with tense anticipation, he announced to the room, he took the bait. Below, the demon lord's own sharp grin confirmed her satisfaction with the outcome. A month later, in a West Manaris desert, the official declaration of war was made. Citing a breach of the Human-Demon Treaty, specifically Section 3 of Article 7, the Human Kingdom announced the deployment of the combined hero to turn the demon's land into a sea of fire. The news weighed heavily on the other heroes. Banza grimly acknowledged that the war was finally starting. Leol, adjusting his glasses, confessed that he had never been so nervous, a sentiment echoed by Frodo, who added that it would be his first time fighting an opponent stronger than himself. Their nervous chatter drew the attention of the demon lord, who turned to them with a look of genuine confusion and asked what they were talking about. Before they could answer, Risel interjected coolly, remarking that it wasn't as if they would have a chance to shine in the coming conflict anyway. His dismissive comment left Banza, Leol, and Frodo utterly bewildered, unable to comprehend his meaning. Risel then elaborated on his strategy. He explained that this war would be won with a smaller, more focused force. He predicted the humans would rely on the combined hero to display overwhelming power and assert dominance, making a strategic ambush on their part highly unlikely. He declared his intention to personally take on this challenge. By defeating the combined hero, their ultimate trump card, they would knock the humans off their high horses. As the demon lord and her sister looked on in approval, the other heroes stared in shock, with Banza stammering, "Hey, you don't mean?" He stood firm in his declaration, his silhouette looming as he stated his intention to fight the combined hero on his own. Before him, the demon lord's sister listened, a faint, knowing smile gracing her lips as she looked up at him. Under the light of a full moon, Risel surveys the castle, deeming it adequate for his purposes. His quiet observation is interrupted by Frodo, who greets him with a cheerful morning. Frodo, surprised to see him, asks what he's doing out so early. Risel explains he is doing a bit of preparation before the big fight. Frodo then gestures to a small, spherical device, asking if the prep walk is related to it. Risel confirms, explaining that it is a magical tool for image reception, akin to a television. He reveals that these devices have been set up everywhere around the demon lord's territory, including within the castle itself. Overhearing this, Cecil's sister reacts with astonishment. She questions how he could possibly have enough magic stones to cover the entire territory. Risel cheerfully clarifies that everyone has one stone each, and that while he was missing a few, Leol was able to provide them, as he can use storage magic. She presses him further, asking why he is setting up all these tools. Risel declares his intention to broadcast the fight between the demon lord and the combined hero. The revelation stuns her. She internally realizes that the true threat wasn't the demon lord, but Risel himself, who managed this incredible feat in a single day. Still processing, she asks what the purpose of such a broadcast would be. He explains that it is to show the entire world how strong the current demon lord is. This way, other powers wouldn't dare make a move against her territory, even if she were to be absent. His mention of her absence prompts a question from her. Risel looks at her with unnerving calm and reveals his ultimate goal. He is bringing the demon lord to his world. He adds that there is someone there he needs to beat. The weight of his words strikes her. She realizes with a jolt that he is talking about an enemy he cannot defeat on his own, a threat on a level that the summoned heroes could never handle. After a moment of stunned silence, she turns back to Risel, a sense of relief washing over her. She admits she is glad they did not have to fight him and, with gratitude, offers her assistance with his plan. Now allied, Cecil's sister takes up a device resembling a microphone, tapping it and speaking into it to perform a sound check. The broadcast goes live. In the west of the Molinas Desert, before a massive crowd of demons, Serena announces that the long-awaited fight between the demon lord and the combined hero is about to begin. She introduces herself as the demon lord's close guard, who will be providing commentary for the historic event. On the vast, empty plains before the demon army, Risel and the demon lord Cecil face their opposition. Risel observes that the enemy numbers are fewer than he anticipated. Cecil explains that it is because their foes underestimate the demon's strength, and also because the war was declared so abruptly. From the opposing side, a voice rings out, mocking the fact that only 2 of them have appeared and remarking on how underestimated they must feel. A single figure begins to step forward from the enemy line. The one who steps forward is the combined hero. With a confident smirk, he addresses the demon lord directly, calling her Melshah and commenting that it has been a while, noting she has become quite a fine woman. He then scoffs, wondering aloud where the goddess is before dismissing the thought entirely. He declares that he alone is more than enough, feeling no excitement for an opponent whose name he claims he can't even remember. In the distance, Risel and the goddess Risha stand together. Meanwhile, observing from another location, the demon lord's sister asks Cecil if she can sense the goddess's presence. She notes that Cecil doesn't seem ready for battle, assuming she thinks it will be a boring fight. Cecil confirms this, adding her realization that the city must be empty now. The mention of the empty city seems to trigger a thought for Risel. Feigning clumsiness, he suddenly remembers something important and asks Cecil if he can leave the situation to her. Suspicious, she immediately accuses him of plotting something again. Despite her suspicion, she lets out an exasperated sigh. Acknowledging that he's going to go no matter what she says, Cecil simply tells him to go already. He smiles, telling her he'll look forward to seeing the results when he returns, and then vanishes in a flash. As he departs, Cecil nonchalantly waves, remarking that the fight will be over by the time he's back. Her attention returns to the battlefield, where the combined hero has noticed Risel's departure. He taunts her, asking if she intends to fight him alone, and mockingly offers to take on all of her forces if she wishes to send them. His arrogance is too much for her to bear silently. A small chuckle escapes her lips before she erupts into full-throated laughter. The hero is stunned, asking if she's gone mad. She retorts that he makes her laugh, finding it unbelievable that she was afraid of such a small fry for years, an opponent who can't even gauge the immense power gap between them. She internally scoffs at the approaching warrior, shrouded in a dark aura, thinking him a weak fool for so easily falling for her provocation. Enraged, the combined hero declares that he will finish this himself, ordering his unseen companions to stay back. A nearby demon guard acknowledges the command. Their gazes lock in a shared moment of fury. The combined hero bellows in defiance, while the demon lord, her fangs bared, screams that this will be his final day. In response, the hero lunges forward, sword raised high. He boasts that he will end their battle in a mere 10 seconds. As his blade descends, a small sphere of dark energy materializes before the demon lord, intercepting the strike and erupting in a blinding flash. The explosion obscures the demon lord from view. From the ground beneath the hero, however, a powerful counterattack of light and energy erupts, striking him directly and forcing a cry of shock and pain from his lips. He grits his teeth, cursing her. Floating unharmed above the battlefield, the demon lord taunts him, asking how he couldn't even dodge that. She notes with detached interest that his healing seems to be taking quite a bit of time. The hero struggles, sweat beading on his brow as he realizes the immense power difference. Below, the demon lord's eyes glow as she concentrates, gathering a swirling vortex of dark energy in front of her. That vortex erupts into a cataclysmic blast, a wave of pure destructive force that completely engulfs the hero's position. He is caught defenseless in the heart of the explosion. The smoke clears to reveal the devastating result. The combined hero staggers, a gaping, cauterized hole torn through his abdomen. Despite the grievous wound, he dismisses her power as nothing more than petty tricks. She simply calls him an idiot. As he coughs up a gout of blood, the hero realizes with dawning horror that he must quickly use his full heal magic to have any chance of survival. He stands before her, wounded and bloodied, as she smiles with cruel satisfaction. She thanks him for waiting for her own full heal to complete. The hero stares in disbelief, questioning why she would need to heal. The demon lord merely smirks, stating there are many reasons, leaving him to grapple with the terrifying implication. She hovers before the grievously wounded hero, her victory absolute. With a calm finality, she explains the simple truth of their encounter. She is strong, and he is weak. That is all. His strength finally gives out. The hero can only utter, before his body collapses backward onto the dusty ground. The demon lord watches him fall, her expression placid. From her perspective, the entire affair was profoundly underwhelming. A single thought crosses her mind. How boring. Meanwhile, those watching the broadcast are left in stunned silence. The goddess Risel, observing from a grand balcony, stammers in disbelief, unable to process the hero's sudden and complete defeat. Elsewhere, the demon lord's attendant, Serena, voices her own disappointment, remarking on how unbelievable it was to see such an unsatisfying fight from their side. Back on the battlefield, a voice booms through the air, declaring the demon lord's overwhelming victory for all to hear as the defeated hero lies motionless. The broadcast feed then cuts out with a final cry of glory to the demon lord and a farewell to the audience, signaling the end of the transmission. With the spectacle concluded, the demon lord turns to Risel, who now bears a pair of dark horns. She asks if he was watching, confirming the fight is over. He smiles, replying that it was amazing and that he has just concluded his own business as well. She questions what he was doing. He chuckles, dismissing it as nothing bad before revealing his true accomplishment. He stole the combined hero's device. The demon lord is taken aback. Risel calmly states his desire for an audience regarding the device, which he claims he can analyze in seconds. His purpose clear, Risel turns his gaze to the heavens. He shouts, his voice ringing with command, calling out the god of summoning. Declaring that he possesses the hero's device, he demands their immediate presence. He waited, but the goddess did not appear. The demon lord, standing beside him, observed that Risel was not taking the bait. He remained unconcerned, remarking with a confident smile that his summons was perhaps too loud, but that she would eventually appear. The demon lord, impressed by his forceful command, bounced with excitement, urging him to proceed. Risel simply agreed. His gaze hardened as he revealed his true intention, to begin the experiment involving himself and the defeated combined hero. The horned demon tells Demon Lord Cecil that he looks forward to her success. With a wide, confident grin, Cecil dismisses his concern, urging him to leave and boasting that she will be done with her own task before he even returns. She reflects that with her powers, she will be fine regardless of his presence. As he flies over a snow-dusted city, the horned demon considers his own mission. He believes that with the current weak state of the enemy's defenses, he should be able to steal the combination device with ease. He consults a glowing, grid-like map displayed on a small device. According to the layout, his target should be located somewhere in the immediate vicinity. Following the map's guidance, he finds himself in an empty, curtained room. On a pedestal sits the device he seeks. He confirms that no one is present and, after a quick scan, finds no traps, attributing the lack of security to the arrogance of his foes. He seizes the device with surprising ease. After a moment of waiting, he realizes no one is coming and nothing is happening. With time to spare, he decides to analyze his prize, and a look of understanding crosses his face as he deems it useful. Suddenly, his eyes widen in surprise as he senses a presence behind him. The presence is Cecil, who has just appeared in a flash of light. She asks if he saw her arrival, announcing she has also finished her task. He confirms he did and compliments her on a good fight. Cecil's expression hardens as she demands to know what he was doing. He defensively insists he was doing nothing evil, just stealing the combination device, which leaves her utterly shocked. Before the situation can escalate, Risel appears beside Cecil, placing a calming hand on her shoulder. He suggests that since they have a chance, they should seek an audience. A flustered Cecil asks if he wants to use the device right away, and Risel gives a firm, confident confirmation. Holding the device, Cecil turns her attention to the sky and shouts. She calls out for the god of summons, declaring that she knows they are present and that she possesses the combination device, demanding they appear at once. Her call goes unanswered. Cecil notes with slight disappointment that the god isn't coming. Risel observes coolly that their target is apparently not one to be lured by bait. Unfazed by the failure, Cecil decides it doesn't matter, reasoning that the god will have to come out eventually. With a determined grin, she declares that they should simply use the device right away. Risel clarifies his intention for the device, stating that the experiment to combine his power with that of the combined hero will begin now. Hearing this, Demon Lord Cecil looks downcast, her voice small as she asks if his plan doesn't involve her. She presses the point, suggesting it would be better to use the device on her instead. In response, Risel explains the device's function. It absorbs the magic power from one person and transfers it to another, permanently increasing their maximum capacity. Her failure to grasp the implication surprises him, and he asks if she truly doesn't realize her own potential. He elaborates, stating that in terms of raw maximum magical capacity, she is far superior to him. The revelation leaves Cecil stunned, barely able to process that she could be more powerful than Risel. He reaffirms his desire for a partner who can fight alongside him, insisting that she is already strong and has the potential to become even stronger, strong enough to surpass him entirely. Cecil is visibly flustered by his declaration. He then reveals his true motivation wasn't just to test the device, but to empower her so he wouldn't hold her back. Leaning closer, he confides that the device holds another secret, an apparent connection between the summoning goddess and the magical mind circuit. Risel explains his plan, stating that with the object they possess, they can perform mental manipulation on the goddess Risha. He asserts that since he is more skilled in such arts, he should be the one to use it. The demon lord, Mersha, reacts with shock, realizing the object is directly connected to the goddess. She pouts, conceding that she cannot object now that he has laid out his reasoning. Risel observes her, guessing that she truly wants to try it herself. Despite her outward acceptance, Mersha worries internally, questioning if the process is truly safe. Risel counters her unspoken concern, noting that they will never know what might happen unless they proceed. His expression brightens with excitement for the experiment. He muses that if her other persona, Cecil, were present, she would be ecstatic. With renewed resolve, he announces that it is time to begin. As he activates the artifact, a powerful light erupts. Risel grunts from the strain as a fleeting vision of the blindfolded hero, his form cracked and broken, flashes before him. The blinding light forces Mersha to shield her eyes. Within the torrent of energy, Risel remains composed, internally confirming that the activation was successful and that no foreign personality seems to be taking over. He feels his mana overflowing, but finds he is able to suppress it. When Mersha asks how it went, he turns to her with a confident smile and declares it a success. Her jaw drops in utter disbelief. Stunned, she can only stammer his name before shouting, "No way." Her astonishment is cut short by the sudden arrival of an armored figure. Mersha wonders if he is the troop's captain, a guess Risel confirms. The soldier, however, stares at them, stating that what he sees is not possible. The captain's gaze fixes on the artifact in Risel's hand, his face contorting in rage and disbelief. "Why's that thing here?" he bellows, accusing the foolish human of stealing it. He reveals that the object should have been secured in the deepest parts of the palace, leaving him to question how it was taken. The captain stood, trembling before the floating figure of the demon lord. She casually tossed the sealed scroll toward him, her voice echoing with authority as she instructed him to take it to his king. She then delivered her chilling ultimatum. It was a final warning for the humans to surrender. Catching the scroll, the captain stared at it in disbelief, asking what it was. A wave of pure terror washed over him as he realized the consequences of his failure. He was certain that if he presented this to the king, he would be tortured and then executed. His panic was evident. The demon lord, smirking, noted his fear and offered to send his head to the kingdom as a bonus, just like the other summoned heroes. The captain shrieked that he understood and turned to flee, begging her to remember her promise to help him before he could be executed. As he sprinted away, a stern-faced commander with a dark beard watched his frantic approach and gave a sharp order to his confused men: retreat. Don't think, don't ask. From afar, Risel questioned if the king would even receive the message, while the demon lord seemed confident. The fleeing captain, meanwhile, silently swore that if he had been lied to, he would hold a grudge even in death. As a vast army of human soldiers marches away, the demon lord Cecil suggests sending them off with a teleportation spell. Risel, standing beside her, counters that they need to buy as much time as possible. With a sigh, Cecil concedes the point, realizing she has no other choice. She murmurs her understanding as she watches them go. Risel, flexing his hand, states his intention to experiment with new tactics using his recently expanded mana pool. He glances over, noticing her sullen expression. Cecil complains that it isn't fair for him to get all the new abilities, especially since she was the one who defeated the combined hero. A small caricature of Risel notes her bad mood. Her pouting is interrupted when Risel leans in close, a confident glint in his eye. He assures her not to worry, revealing he is creating an ultimate trump card specifically for her. The declaration leaves Cecil utterly astonished. Changing the subject, Risel announces their return to the castle. Certain a feast is being prepared. Cecil's mood shifts instantly to excitement, eager to see everyone's happy faces. As they walk, however, Risel seems to be struck by a sudden thought. Upon their arrival in the castle courtyard, they're met by a grand welcoming committee. The entire staff, including Cecil's sister, the bearded official, and the helmeted captain, stands assembled to honor their return. A radiant smile spreads across Cecil's face as she takes in the scene, her joyous laughter filling the air. Beside her, Risel watches with a warm, gentle expression. The celebration erupts as Cecil's sister and the bearded official rush forward, pulling her into a tight, emotional embrace. Amid the crowd, the adventurer Leol observes the heartfelt reunion with a look of complete bewilderment. A boisterous chef proudly presents an enormous roasted joint of meat, its sheer size causing both Cecil and her sister to recoil in comical shock. Risel, however, looks on with quiet amusement. Later, as the festivities continue outside, Risel watches from a distance. The scene shifts to a quiet bedroom where Cecil lies awake beside her sleeping sister. Softly, she calls out to her. She leans close to her sleeping sister, whispering in awe that she truly defeated the combined hero. From the bed, her sister's eyes are open, and she quietly affirms it. Her gaze drifts to her sister's hand resting on the sheets, marveling that it was this very hand that achieved the victory. Despite the triumph, she admits to herself that it was terrifying. She is still shaking from the ordeal. In response, her sister's hand gently covers her own. The older sister praises her, stating that with the proud hand of a demon lord, she protected the people and the country. She calls an extremely important step. Moved, the demon lord declares that no matter how close or far they may be, she will protect this place with her own strength as well. Outside the room, leaning against the wall, Risel overhears their exchange. He quietly affirms their shared sentiment, resolving to protect this country and this world together with them. The sound of footsteps echoes on a grand staircase as the demon lord's sister descends. Below, a crowd of demons, their faces a mixture of awe and apprehension, watch her approach. She moves with purpose, her expression unreadable as she reaches the bottom step. From a high balcony, she addresses the massive assembly, her voice commanding silence. She declares that while the threat of the combined hero is gone and their freedom has been regained, they must remain vigilant for new threats. To this end, she announces she will be traveling to another world to train alongside the hero, Risel. She pauses, sensing the disquiet that ripples through the crowd. Below, the demons exchange worried glances, their faces etched with uncertainty at the news of her impending departure. To assuage their fears, she proclaims that they should not fret, as she has left all her wisdom to someone else. She commands the successor to step forward. From the side, the young demon lord, Cecil, meekly agrees and moves into view. Her voice rings out again, declaring that she will hand over all authority to her sister, Cecil, while she is gone. She concedes that while Cecil is still in training, Her political skills are already shamefully superior to her own. She then issues a challenge to the crowd, asking if anyone wishes to voice an objection. With her back to the assembly, she delivers a final, stern warning. She is not as naive as her sister, she states, and she expects every demon to work tirelessly toward their goals in the demon lord's absence. She then turns to Cecil, instructing her to greet her people. Cecil quietly affirms. Her eyes narrow, her expression hardening into an intense glare as she demands to know if her orders have been understood. In stark contrast, a flustered Cecil turns to the crowd, stammering that perhaps they should proceed with moderation. The demons, sweating and equally terrified, nervously agree. A few days later, the scene shifts. Cecil is floundering in the middle of a vast ocean, asking Risel why they are there. He calmly explains that it is to learn self-strengthening spells. He stands effortlessly atop the water's surface, confirming their purpose. He then advises her to step back a little, a clear sign that his demonstration is about to begin. He hovered above the water, a glowing magical circle expanding beneath his feet. Watching from short distance, Cecil noted that Risel was taking an uncharacteristically long time to cast this spell. The spell culminated in a blinding flash of light. Cecil could only stare, her jaw dropping as she struggled to form a word, stammering, Dro. As her eyes adjusted, the source of her shock became clear. A massive dragon now loomed over the water, its sheer size casting a shadow. A dragon? She shrieked in terror. Putting the pieces together, she addressed the colossal creature directly. She asked if by self-strengthening spells, he meant turning into a dragon, then wondered aloud if such a large body would make it harder to cast spells. The dragon's voice, recognizably Risel's, rumbled in response. Glad you asked. Before he could elaborate, a sudden impact struck his massive form. The dragon recoiled with a pained grunt, the explanation cut short by an unseen attack. The demon lord, Cecil, observes Risel, questioning if he has reverted to being a human. With a confident smile, he invites her to examine his body's structure more closely, leaving her momentarily confused. Her confusion gives way to analysis as she senses the magic particles around him have shifted, now possessing the attributes of a dragon. She deduces he used a humanization technique and asks if he managed to transform into both a dragon and a human simultaneously. He then presses with another question, asking about the pros and cons of such a dual transformation. Cecil, delighted, confirms his theory was perfectly correct, but playfully dismisses his follow-up question as unimportant. Her cheerful demeanor vanishes as she explains the trade-offs. A dragon can use unique spells, but is slow due to its large frame, and mana control becomes difficult. She trails off, pondering the immense potential if a human could somehow utilize a dragon's superior spells without these drawbacks. He confirms her line of thought, explaining that by transforming into a human without deactivating his dragon form, he cancels out all the disadvantages. This hybrid state grants him a stronger body and access to a dragon's unique spells, combining human flexibility with draconic resilience. The realization dawns on Cecil. This is a method of self-strengthening. She admits she'd never considered such a path, which would require one to defeat a dragon in order to become one. His response is to move in close, flustering her as he chides her for her self-deprecating habits. She laughs nervously, expressing doubt that she could ever use such a high-level technique. He cuts off her doubt with a forceful declaration. Risel shouts that her dragon form is determined by her mana pool, and unlike him, who only gained access to this ultimate spell after merging with the combined hero, she has always possessed a large enough mana reserve, making her the ideal candidate. His intensity fades. He suggests her low self-esteem is a bad habit born from years of abuse, but also notes it's connected to her way of thinking. He then declares it his job, as her mentor, to build her confidence. Humbled, Cecil apologizes and agrees to rely on him. Pleased, Risel smiles and states that to achieve this, she will need to learn self-strengthening. A small, cat-like familiar appears, cheering her on with encouragement. He presents an ornate, glowing bracelet to the demon lord, Cecil. He instructs her to wear it, explaining that it will lessen the burden of her training and act as a minor spell stabilizer. Cecil, initially curious, gazes at the intricate item and remarks on its beauty. With the bracelet on her wrist, Risel issues his first command. She is to attempt the transformation into both dragon and human forms while wearing the device. Filled with new resolve, Cecil shouts that she will do her best. Her training commences, continuing through the night under the light of the full moon. Sometime later, Risel sits alone inside a brightly lit room, monitoring what appears to be a magical interface. His quiet observation is suddenly interrupted by Cecil's excited voice calling his name, causing him to look up in surprise. She appears before him, beaming with pride and excitement. Cecil triumphantly declares that she has finally mastered the dragon-human transformation technique and eagerly asks if he wants to see her demonstrate. Caught off guard by her rapid success, Risel can only express his amazement. The demon lord, Cecil, turns her attention from the small, distressed dragon form of her companion. The creature laments its inability to change back, a situation that reminds Cecil of a time when she, too, was stuck as a dragon. She looks toward Risel and announces she has something to ask. She asks if the combined hero was truly the strongest being in this world, admitting that he seemed rather underwhelming. With a pout, she challenges Risel, asking why he doesn't simply investigate the matter himself. Instead of answering, he calmly raises a finger towards the night sky, framed by the full moon. He changes the subject entirely, asking, "What about the moon?" His question catches Cecil completely off guard. She stares, flustered, questioning why he would bring up the moon as if someone were living there. Risel confirms he was just about to investigate. Cecil smirks, telling him to go ahead, noting it would be a significant discovery if true. He counters with a slight smile, asking if she's sure, as it sounds like a worthwhile search. At his unspoken command, a tiny, winged, mechanical familiar materializes with a soft chime. It immediately buzzes and takes flight, speeding off into the darkness towards the moon. The familiar's perspective reveals its target, a solitary, impossibly tall tower standing starkly on the moon's desolate surface. It buzzes as it closes in. The scene shifts abruptly. In a sun-dappled clearing, surrounded by trees, Cecil's sister stands alone, her back turned as a gentle breeze rustles the grass around her. She turns her head slightly, revealing her sharp profile against the tranquil backdrop of the woods. With her eyes closed, she appears serene, yet a subtle melancholy seems to hang in the air around her. Her gaze lifted, a flicker of surprise in her sharp, reptilian eyes as she sensed a distant disturbance. The source of that disturbance began moments earlier. On a moonlit balcony, the demon Lord Cecil leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "So," she prompted, waiting for Risel to answer her question about the strongest being. But instead of answering, Risel had sent his magical probe toward the moon. Now, a faint, knowing smile played on his lips as he internally confirmed the outcome. His connection to the familiar had been severed. There was no doubt. His smile widened as he gazed up at the full moon, a genuine thrill in his voice. He mused aloud, "Oh my, so there's someone actually strong in this world after all." The implication of his words struck Cecil with force. She slammed her hands on the table, her eyes wide with disbelief as the image of the destroyed familiar flashed in her mind. She exclaimed, "Something's really there?" She stood up, completely flustered, her horns twitching. She protested that in her several hundred years of life, she had never heard of such a thing. In stark contrast to her agitation, Risel simply sat, calmly stating, "I'm certain." Her shock quickly morphed into fiery determination. With a slight blush of excitement on her cheeks, she pointed forward and declared, "Oh, let's go." Risel readily agreed, his expression bright and eager. With their objectives set, Risel and the horned demon stood ready, their gazes fixed on the path ahead. The demon lord's voice echoed with resolve, announcing their shared mission. "Our goal is the strongest on the moon." Floating in the star-dusted void before a lone, white tower, Risel confirms their arrival. Beside him, the demon Lord Cecil expresses her astonishment that people truly live on the moon. They land softly at the base of the structure. With no obvious entrance, Risel voices the immediate problem: how to get inside. As if an answer, a dark entryway materializes in the tower's wall, sliding open on its own. Cecil watches, startled, and questions if this means they are being welcomed. Her suspicion grows, and she asks Risel if their presence has been detected, and if this is a trap. He looks into the darkness and calmly replies that he senses no hostility. He reasons that they cannot find the cub without entering the mother's nest and decides they must go inside. With some hesitation, Cecil agrees. As they move to enter, Risel suddenly stops short. Cecil, caught off guard by his abrupt halt, asks him what is wrong. Before he can answer, she realizes it herself. The void has been replaced by something impossible. She can feel air on her skin and smell the scent of fresh grass. Her eyes fly open to a bright, cloud-filled sky and a distant tree. The sudden, complete change in environment makes her cry out in utter shock. A vast, sunlit field of grass now stretches out before them, where the dark interior of the tower should have been. Risel identifies the phenomenon with a single phrase: spatial creation. Cecil is left stunned, contemplating the immense mana required for such a spell and the power of the being who could cast it. He stood beside Cecil in the vast, empty field, their attention fixed on the solitary figure standing before them. A voice echoed across the grass, questioning their purpose there. As he studied the distant form, Risel realized with certainty that they were not facing a mere person. His assessment was proven correct as the figure came into focus, a woman with horns and pointed ears. She let out a great yawn, complaining that it wasn't worth the trouble to come outside. Cecil, unimpressed, pointed out that the woman was surely the one who had brought them here in the first place. Risel's eyes narrowed. He had known it wasn't someone average. It was a humanoid dragon. Ignoring Cecil's accusation, the dragon woman placed her hands behind her head, her expression unbothered. "So," she began, "I'll ask one more time. What are you here for?" In response to her question, it was Cecil who stepped forward, her face alight with a wide, eager grin. "I'm looking for someone strong," she declared with excitement. "Please have a bout with me." The dragon woman stared, momentarily stunned into silence by the bold challenge. Her surprise quickly melted into amusement, and she let out a hearty laugh. She praised Cecil, stating that she liked straightforward people who declared their intentions rather than resorting to a surprise attack. A bit flustered but determined, Cecil asked if she could take that as a yes. The dragon woman's laughter subsided as she clenched her fist, her demeanor shifting once more. Her expression hardened into a sharp, predatory gaze. "Who's going first?" she demanded. Cecil's own excitement was now tempered with a grim realization. This opponent was incredibly strong. Beside her, Risel silently concurred, acknowledging that it had been a while since he had encountered such a powerful being. Facing the horned dragon woman, Risel and the demon lord Cecil stand side by side. Risel announces that they accept her offer and will fight her together. The horned dragon woman grins ferociously, thrilled at the prospect, declaring it's the first time in 1,000 years she'll have fun. She leaps into the air, creating distance. On the ground, Cecil confirms she won't hold back, while Risel observes that their opponent seems to be enjoying herself. From her position, the horned dragon woman clasps her hands and asks if they are ready to begin. In an instant, she rockets forward, a blur of pure speed that tears through the air and kicks up a cloud of dust and debris from the ground below. Appearing directly before Cecil with her fist cocked back, the horned dragon woman deems her target too slow. But just as her punch is about to land, it is suddenly stopped. Risel's hand has intercepted the blow, his fingers wrapped firmly around her fist. The horned dragon woman looks on in surprise, acknowledging that he has tagged in. Risel calmly assesses her power as not bad, his grip surrounded by crackling dark energy. Realizing the fight has truly begun, she declares this is the real deal. However, as she tries to pull away, she finds her arm ensnared by a swirling vortex of dark magic. She scoffs, questioning if he truly believes such a thing can hold her. Her confidence shatters into frustration. She realizes she was caught off guard from behind by an incredibly dense magical power that has completely immobilized her. Straining against the binding, she grits her teeth, knowing she won't be able to break free. The swirling vortex of energy intensifies, completely enveloping the trapped horned dragon woman as Risel and Cecil observe from a distance. The powerful magic continues to bind her, its dark tendrils wrapping tightly around her form, leaving her utterly helpless. Risel appears before her, his grip still firm on her arm. With a knowing smirk, he reveals his awareness of her abilities, stating that she is strengthening her body with the Dragon Man technique. He then adds that he has borrowed a special technique of his own, confirming her suspicion. He maintains his grip, a slight smirk on his face as he listens to his captive's thoughts. The horned dragon woman struggles fruitlessly, her arm encased by his power. She realizes his plan was simply to stop her from moving, a cunning tactic that has caught her completely off guard. Her frustration mounts as she finds herself trapped once more. Her shock, however, is not just for being captured. It is a well-known fact that a dragon's greatest flaw is its short temper. Exploiting this, another figure appears in a flash, a woman with long, light hair, delivering a powerful high kick aimed directly at the stunned dragon woman's head. The horned dragon woman's kick connects, but she is shocked to find her opponent has withstood the blow. She remarks that no woman's kick should have ever been endured like this. The recoil sends her stumbling back, coughing from the impact. Seizing the opening, Risel delivers a decisive finishing blow. The strike lands with brutal force, causing the horned dragon woman to spit blood. From a distance, the young demon lord and her sister watch the duel reach its conclusion. The impact of Risel's attack creates a blinding flash. As the light subsides, the horned dragon woman is seen collapsing, admitting her defeat. Both Risel and the demon lord recognize that the battle is over, identifying him as an otherworlder. He asks if she has finally figured it out. Lying defeated on the ground, she replies that she has, noting that his strange clothes are the key. She then looks up at him with a determined gaze, declaring her wish to impart her skills onto him. The young demon lord watches from nearby, her expression unreadable. The dying warrior glances toward the demon lord and laughs, remarking that the demon king over there doesn't seem very talented. Risel, surprised by the offer, questions if she truly intends to pass her skills onto him. Her strength rapidly fading, she looks up at Risel from the ground. She asks if he will listen to an old dragon's last request. Kneeling beside the fallen warrior, Risel looks down at her and gives a simple, solemn agreement. He places his hand over hers as a shimmering light signifies a transfer of power. With her final breaths, she expresses her gladness at having fought someone so strong. Risel confirms aloud that he has received it. As her hand falls limp, Risel stares at his own, contemplating the nature of the power that was just passed to him. Her final thought echoes as her consciousness fades. It was, in the end, really fun. The thought dissipates as the horned dragon woman's body lies still, a faint smile on her lips. Standing over the fallen warrior, the demon lord quietly observes, he's gone. Risel, kneeling nearby, somberly agrees. He rises and turns away, looking out at the sky. The demon lord reflects on the warrior's dedication to self-improvement, still finding it hard to believe someone of such strength truly existed. Her expression hardens with resolve. There's something she feels she must say. She calls out to him, her voice hesitant. Hey, Risel. He turns to face her, asking what it is. She immediately confronts him, demanding to know why he finished the warrior off when the fight was already over. She argues that since he was the only other strong person in the world, it would have been smarter to keep him on their side. As Risel begins to form a reply, she suddenly holds up her hands, shouting for him to wait and stop. Ignoring her plea, he begins to explain with a slight smirk, mentioning the technique he inherited. The demon lord, flustered, asks what technique he is talking about and again tells him to wait. He calmly reveals its name: Resurrection of the Dead. She is left speechless, her eyes wide with shock. In a non-physical space, the spirit of the horned dragon woman bursts into laughter. Realizing she's been tricked, she roars with fury. "You old fart dragon. I'm gonna kill you again." Standing beside the demon lord Cecil, Risel announces his intent to immediately attempt the resurrection of the horned dragon woman. Cecil remarks that it's a rather mad scientist-like thing to say, but Risel grins, admitting it's his first time resurrecting someone and he's quite looking forward to it. With a decisive "here I go," he extends his hand. As he begins the process, the horned dragon woman's lifeless body lies in a field. A brilliant sphere of light forms in Risel's palm and descends upon her. The light strikes the fatal wound on her chest, causing the flesh to rapidly regenerate and seal shut. Her eyes, once closed in death, flutter open. She groans and sits up, confirming she's been safely brought back to life. Smiling at Risel, she says she knew he would be the one to resurrect her. However, Cecil interrupts with a grave expression, stating that it won't be possible to do the same for the citizens who died, leaving the newly revived woman confused. The horned dragon woman asks why, prompting Risel to suggest they discuss it over tea. As he speaks, Cecil has a shocking realization, exclaiming aloud that the technique must only be able to resurrect those the user has killed themselves. Now seated together, Risel confirms Cecil's deduction. He explains that the technique's success rate is increased by this very restriction, as it wouldn't be right for just anyone to be brought back to life. Cecil quietly concedes that his logic is sound. Cecil then laments that the dragon she fought wasn't as strong as she'd expected. Risel agrees that fighting it wouldn't be much of a training session and clarifies that this restriction is precisely why he couldn't resurrect the dragon Melsha he defeated before. He does, however, offer to teach Cecil the technique if she wishes to fight again. As they speak, the horned dragon woman, who has been listening quietly, chimes in. Resting her chin on her hand, she casually mentions that she heard Risel defeated the synthetic hero and performed a synthesis experiment. Her words catch him completely by surprise. Risel's eyes widen as he demands to know how she could have learned such a thing. He struggles to process this, muttering, "I see. But what of it?" In response, the horned dragon woman simply winks, stating with confidence that even she knows that much. She continues her explanation, proposing a theory. If an opponent was killed by the synthetic hero in the past, Risel might be able to resurrect them himself. However, she concedes that she has never tested this, so she cannot guarantee its success. He processes her words, his gaze fixed as he murmurs his understanding. A new idea seems to strike him, and he abruptly declares they are returning to the Demon King's castle. A bewildered Cecil questions the sudden change of plans, complaining that he interrupted her explanation. Risel dismisses her protest, stating that he understood the important parts. Cecil fumes silently, believing he has dodged the subject, while Risel casually mentions he can visit anytime. The horned dragon woman agrees, extending an open invitation. Risel then turns his attention back to her, asking directly if she intends to join them on their return journey. She grins broadly, firmly declining the offer. She declares her intention to enjoy her retirement. A knowing smile crosses Risel's face as he remarks that he expected that answer. With the matter settled, she gives a simple affirmation. Risel extends his hand, bidding her farewell until they meet again. Their hands clasp in a firm handshake, and he repeats the sentiment, calling her his friend. As they part ways, Cecil waves an energetic goodbye while she and Risel vanish in a swirl of dark energy. The horned dragon woman watches them disappear before her gaze falls to her own hand, her expression turning thoughtful as she murmurs to herself. Alone once more on the quiet, grassy hill, she stretches out under the shade of a lone tree, deciding to take a nap. That evening, within the Demon King's castle, Cecil complains to her sister about Risel's unpredictable behavior. She questions why he would summon even her sister for this mysterious plan. Her sister, however, remains composed, expressing her curiosity and anticipation for what is to come. She and her sister, the demon lord Cecil, turn in surprise as Risel appears in a doorway, apologizing for keeping them waiting. As he steps fully into the room, Risel's attention is fixed on an elderly demon with large, swept-back horns, whom he addresses simply as grandfather. The man's presence sends a wave of disbelief through the sisters. He calls out to them, "Melsha, Cecil." Cecil, whose true name is Melsha, can only whisper that it's impossible. Ignoring their shock, the grandfather gently takes Cecil's hand, his touch firm and reassuring. He urges them both to listen closely to his words. He then pulls them into a warm embrace, holding his granddaughters close. He instructs them to always help each other, prophesying that one of them would surely become the next Demon King. As he holds them, he continues his counsel, urging them to work together to improve their country. He acknowledges that life can be painful and advises them to lean on others, to surround themselves with many people they can rely on. Overwhelmed with emotion, the sisters cry out his name as they return the embrace. With tears in his own eyes, their grandfather tells them how much they had grown and how deeply he had missed them. The tender moment is broken by Melcia's confusion. She asks how her grandfather can be there when he had been defeated by the synthetic hero. Risel calmly interjects, explaining that he was the one who had resurrected him. He then adds that he has much to explain, not just to the sisters, but to the former demon king himself. Before Risel can elaborate, the former demon king's attention snaps back to his granddaughter, his face a mask of astonishment. He exclaims in disbelief, questioning if Melcia had truly defeated the synthetic hero, while both she and Sissel beam with pride. The former king processed the revelation, stroking his chin as he pieced it together. He asked if this meant that, by absorbing the synthetic hero, Risel was now treated as the same person. Melcia, looking at Risel, added her own astonishment that her master had absorbed their enemy. Risel affirmed that this connection was precisely what allowed him to perform the resurrection. He clarified, however, that it was only the memories regarding the resurrection that were passed on. He supposed that through mana, the memory of defeating the demon king had been transferred to him. The former king nodded, finally understanding the mechanics of his return. Risel admitted he had been uncertain if the resurrection would even work, but felt a wave of relief when the king's face had floated into his mind. With that matter settled, the king's attention shifted, and he asked if it was possible to perform this synthesis on his granddaughters as well. Before Risel could fully consider it, the girls erupted. Melcia declared it was unfair if only Risel benefited, while Sissel passionately agreed, insisting there was no harm in doing it. Risel, caught off guard by their fervor, could only stammer a hesitant agreement. Melcia pressed her case, shouting that since they now knew the synthesis was safe, it was a perfect opportunity for them to become stronger. Sissel backed her up, shouting that while she might not be good at mental manipulation, that was a completely separate issue from gaining power. He attempted to inject a note of caution, reminding them that the synthetic hero was a mortal enemy of the demon race. He asked if they truly had no resistance to the idea of a part of that enemy becoming a part of their own bodies. Sissel's response was immediate and dismissive. With a wide, confident grin, she declared that compared to the goal of becoming stronger, such a concern was trivial. Melcia voiced her agreement. Their grandfather chuckled warmly, apologizing to a weary Risel and explaining that this was simply how his granddaughters were. A small smile broke across Risel's face as he conceded. He agreed they were right and announced he would begin the synthesis. As he initiated the process, both Melcia and Sissel let out cries of exhilaration. The power surged through them, and Sissel gasped in amazement, exclaiming that she could feel power overflowing from within her. After the girls had settled, the former demon king approached Risel with a serious expression. He asked for the real reason Risel had brought him back to life. Looking him directly in the eye, Risel stated his purpose plainly. He wanted the king to assist Sissel. He elaborated on his reasoning, explaining that even though Sissel has her own vassals, he felt it would be a pity to leave her to bear her burdens all alone. He watches as the former demon king, his granddaughters at his side, gives a gentle smile. Melcia feels invigorated, as if she could cast ultimate magic, while Sissel nervously pleads with her not to. The old king chuckles softly and accepts the proposal, stating that watching over his granddaughters is a grandfather's greatest happiness. He offers a simple, heartfelt thank you in response. The former king places a reassuring hand on his shoulder, expressing that he, too, looks forward to working with him. Their moment of accord is abruptly broken by a sharp sound, causing both of them to turn their heads in surprise. The source of the disturbance is Sissel, who stands beside a triumphant Melcia. With newfound confidence, Melcia declares that her preparations are complete and she can now challenge the humans in negotiations without any reservations. Meanwhile, in the human kingdom, a furious shout of "damn it" echoes from the royal castle. The source of the cry is the king, who is losing an arm wrestling match. An attendant nervously points to his trembling hand as the king bellows in frustration, questioning why he is unable to win. He roars at his attendant to shut up, causing the young man to flinch in terror. His outburst is cut short as a blinding flash of light erupts in the center of the room, startling everyone present. From within the fading light, a pair of dark shoes materializes on the polished floor. The king and his attendant stare in utter shock and fear, trembling as they question what has just appeared before them. He stood calmly before the terrified monarch, flanked by two powerful-looking demon women. With a serene expression, he offered a formal greeting, introducing himself to the king of humans for the very first time. Following his introduction, the young girl with twin tails stepped forward, a confident smile on her face. She declared herself the new demon king, Sissel, and announced that their purpose was to conduct peace negotiations. The pronouncement was met with abject terror from the human king, who could only stammer in fear. The young demon lord, Cecil, offers a bright, cheerful smile, thanking her hosts for their welcome. Beside her, her older sister maintains a stoic and unreadable expression. Her words hang in the air of a grand hall, where she and her entourage, including her sister and a cloaked Risel, have made what she calls a sudden visit. Across a long table, the king and his bowl-haired official look on with visible apprehension. The king, sweating under the pressure, clenches his fist and mutters to himself that he supposes it couldn't be helped. The official beside him watches the exchange with a worried glance. From beneath his hood, Risel observes the monarch, realizing the king has not recognized him. He reflects that the king likely never dreamed the very hero he exiled would be standing right before his eyes. The king, meanwhile, nervously considers the consequences of refusing whatever demands are to come. Cutting through the tension, Cecil leans forward and announces that it is time to discuss their demands immediately. Her sister and Risel stand behind her, silent and imposing. She then states their first condition: the total abolition of the unequal treaty that was signed between the humans and the demons. Following this, she adds a staggering second demand: 1 trillion pi in reparations. Cecil slides a document across the table, explaining that the full details are recorded within. The king's eyes widen in disbelief as he stammers, asking her to repeat what she just said. In response, she feigns shock, covering her mouth and asking him to stop telling such blatant lies. The king leaps to his feet, shouting that there is no truth to any claim that his people have used demons as slaves. Risel calmly interjects with a simple "very well." Cecil then turns her gaze back to the king and demands he show them the evidence for his denial. The king is left sputtering, drenched in sweat as he insists he is not lying. The cornered monarch stammers, unable to form a coherent response. Before him, an image materializes, showing lines of emaciated, chained individuals. The disguised Risel presses the point, demanding an explanation. As the king remains silent, the demon lord questions if he still intends to claim there are no slaves, stating that there are approximately 100 such facilities. She then calmly instructs her subordinate to dismiss the illusion. Defeated, the king sweats and manages only a weak affirmation. Immediately, a gloved hand places a document on the table before him, with a simple instruction to sign. Just as he reaches for the document, a furious shout echoes through the hall, warning the king not to be so hasty. A blinding flash of light erupts, engulfing the throne room. From a light emerges the goddess Risha, her divine presence stunning the king into silence. With authority, she addresses the hero hidden among the demons, commanding him to reveal his true identity. Observing this sudden turn of events, the demon lord's sister coolly assesses the newcomer's power, thinking to herself that this is what one should expect from a goddess. Risel notes the convenience of the goddess's arrival, realizing he no longer needs his synthesis device for mental manipulation. At that same moment, the king's eyes widen in horror as he finally recognizes the man standing with the demons. He confirms the king's shock, explaining that he simply faked his death during the assassination attempt. While the king and his official reel from the revelation, the goddess declares that the past is irrelevant. Only one course of action remains for the king. Seeing a desperate opportunity, the king collapses to his knees, pleading with the summoned hero to become his ally once more. The sudden, desperate plea leaves Risel, the demon lord, and her sister completely stunned. Still kneeling, the king makes his offer. He proposes that if Risel can persuade the demon lord to cancel the reparations, he will give him half of the entire amount, a truly staggering bribe. He stammers in disbelief, wondering what he should do now that his offer has been rejected. Risel, however, is unmoved, letting out a sigh. He clarifies that his desire is to become the strongest in the world, not a wealthy man, deeming the king's proposal a poor trade. Before the king can react further, the goddess Risha shoves him aside, calling him a useless man and declaring she will settle things herself. She turns her attention to Risel, offering to grant his wish to return to his original world, depending on the conditions. Intrigued, Risel asks what those conditions are. She states her straightforward condition: Risel must kill the 2 demon sisters with his own hands. Risel acknowledges how simple the request is, so simple, in fact, that he can think of no other response than to refuse. He then reveals he has a much safer and more certain way to return home, holding up a complex, glowing magic tool. He declares his intention to absorb Risha and claim her interdimensional teleportation ability for himself. The goddess stares, her eyes wide with shock and horror, questioning what he truly is. As Risel aims the device, Risha protests, claiming that as the tool's creator, she would have certainly included a mechanism to prevent her own absorption. Unfazed, Risel calmly informs her that he already modified that mechanism beforehand, leaving her utterly speechless. Her disbelief turns to panic as she cries out that his claim is impossible. At that moment, her hand begins to dematerialize into particles of light. Risel explains that such a modification is quite easy for someone proficient in crafting magic tools. Staring at her dissolving form, she can only manage a choked gasp. Risel looks on coolly, remarking that she must have been an amateur when it came to making magic tools. As the light from the tool intensifies, Risha finally breaks, screaming that he is a monster. With a cold, shadowed expression, Risel simply asks, "A monster, am I?" From her throne, The demon lord's sister remarks that she will return those words right back to the goddess, finding it ironic that such an accusation would come from her mouth. Below, Risha can only grunt in agony, tears streaming down her face. Risha begs for him to stop the magic tool, but as she tries to cry out, she finds she cannot make a sound. The demon lord, watching him passively, raises a finger and suggests they have the goddess be quiet for a moment. As the absorption process completes, the goddess Risha shatters into countless particles of light. The king watches, his face a mask of horror, as he stammers that the goddess is fading away completely. The light motes drift around Risel before coalescing in his cupped hands, only to crumble into dust. He observes silently, realizing that her form simply collapsed after losing its creator. He feels a distinct change, noting that his magic is now easier to handle and his body feels remarkably light. The demon lord, Cecil, approaches and asks how he's feeling, musing that even a fallen deity is still a god. Her sister, Sissel, taps her foot impatiently, stating that with the nuisance gone, they can try again. Following her sister's cue, Cecil presents a document to Risel. Flanked by the two smiling demon sisters, he is formally asked to sign the treaty. Elsewhere in the chamber, the king, still trembling from the ordeal, can only manage a weak, affirmative whisper. Later, beneath a full moon, the silhouette of the demon king's castle looms. A cheerful voice echoes through the night, announcing her return to her grandfather. Inside, the former demon king greets the returning party, asking how their trip went. Cecil, beaming with pride alongside her sister and Risel, joyfully declares that the treaty's conclusion was a success. He smiles warmly, inviting them to sit and recount the details slowly over some tea. As the story unfolds, the former demon king's expression turns to shock. He exclaims, asking if Risel truly absorbed the goddess, and seems unsure whether to be impressed or horrified. He marvels that Risel also gained the interdimensional teleportation ability. Risel calmly explains that he figured with this power, he could return to the demon realm periodically, allowing Melsha, Cecil, to see Sissel and the others. His grandfather's shock melts into a pleased chuckle. He declares it good news, seeing the truth in Risel's logic. Cecil agrees, calling it a rather stylish way of thinking. Inside the Demon King's castle, the discussion turns to the other summon heroes. The Demon Lord's sister asks Risel if he intends to send them back to their original world. Risel confirms that is indeed the plan. Upon hearing this, the young Demon Lord, Melsha, insists they must inform the other three immediately, and Risel readily agrees. The news reaches the other heroes, who are overcome with emotion. Frodo laughs in disbelief, tears welling in his eyes at the thought of finally going home. Banzo weeps openly, shouting his gratitude, while Leol waves an enthusiastic farewell, ready to depart. With their departure confirmed, Risel turns to the Demon Lord's sister and asks if they should get going as well. She simply agrees, her expression calm and ready. Before they leave, they receive a heartfelt farewell. The former Demon King advises them both to be careful. The young Demon Lord, Melsha, holds her older sister's hand, echoing their grandfather's sentiment and telling her to take care. Her sister acknowledges the warning with a firm nod. With the farewells concluded, the pair stands under the light of full moon. The Demon Lord's sister raises a hand, announcing her departure with a confident smile. Risel stands beside her, poised to begin their journey. A strange, shattering sound echoes as the very fabric of the space around Risel cracks like glass. He stands amidst the distortion, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. The atmosphere stirs old memories, and he wonders what is happening. The fractured reality gives way to a vast, barren landscape under a bright sky, revealing a towering crystalline structure in the distance. The Demon Lord, Cecil, cries out in shock, demanding to know what this place is. Risel dismisses her alarm, dryly remarking that it's just like her hometown. Cecil presses him, asking what kind of magic could cause an experiment to fail so spectacularly that it alters the entire environment. Risel explains that he simply messed up a magic experiment right before being summoned. He identifies the technique as a quantum magic circle, a term that leaves Cecil completely baffled. Continuing his lecture, he elaborates that this is a new, Level 3 technique, an evolution beyond Level 1 plane and Level 2 solid magic circles. He proudly states it's an excellent method for packing more information than a 3D magic circle, thereby increasing its efficiency. Cecil can only manage a confused hum in response. As he speaks, Risel's hands glow, conjuring intricate rings of light. He reflects that his old self would have failed, but now, having absorbed the goddess's power, he is certain of his success. On the ground below, the barren earth begins to shimmer as small bursts of light erupt across its surface. The transformation accelerates dramatically. Risel explains that by incorporating random numbers into multiple 3D magic circles and superimposing them, one can handle magic at a level far beyond what normal 3D circles allow. This, he declares, is the quantum magic circle. Before Cecil's astonished eyes, the lava zone instantly becomes a grassy plain. Overwhelmed by the spectacle and the incomprehensible explanation, Cecil throws her hands up with a wide, fanged grin, shouting that she doesn't get it all. Her initial excitement quickly sours into frustration as she fumes, unable to process the complex theory. Risel glances at her, admitting he can't say for sure if she could ever wield such a power. Cecil, meanwhile, gazes at the transformed landscape with awe and longing. She realizes that with her current understanding, she can only perceive his magic as something far more amazing than a 3D magic circle, and wonders if she will ever be capable of such a feat. Changing the subject, Risel asks why she wants to defeat the super ultimate life forms. Cecil explains that there are 9 in total, and each possesses a unique paranormal ability. The term seems to give her pause. Risel thoughtfully touches his chin, admitting that he supposes he hadn't told her his full motivation yet. His expression becomes sharp and intense. He reveals his true ambition. He will defeat all 9 of these beings and complete the collection of their abilities. Only then, he declares with a chilling smile, can he become the world's strongest being that he aims to be. He continued his explanation, revealing that he knows the locations of the super ultimate life forms. They are lurking in the lowest floors of dungeons in the world's most remote regions, and furthermore, these areas are protected by natural barriers that prevent teleportation. The memory of his conversation with the goddess Risha surfaced. He had acknowledged her power, and she had explained that until now, no one had ever developed a method to overcome those teleportation barriers, questioning if he could do so now that he had obtained her power. Her gaze had been piercing as she asked him directly, "Are you sure you are the one?" Returning to the present, Risel turned his attention to the young demon lord. Melsha, he began, his tone thoughtful. "It's worth considering." She looked up at him, a questioning escaping her lips. He then changed the subject with a slight smile, asking if she would like to try going to the divine realm. The question caught her completely off guard, and she could only stammer in confusion. Divine realm. In an instant, they were transported to a vast, empty white expanse. Risel confirmed that this was the divine realm, a world created by the goddess. Melsha stared in disbelief at the utter nothingness, exclaiming that it was completely white, but Risel calmly pointed out that there was, in fact, something in the distance. Approaching the object, they found a strange device on a pedestal. Melsha wondered what it was, and Risel noted that it looked like a device and that he could feel a faint trace of the goddess's power from it, similar to the synthesizer. Melsha deduced that this must be why it remained intact after the goddess disappeared. It was her teleportation ability, split off and externalized. As they observed it, the device's screen suddenly turned on by itself. Melsha gasped, startled, questioning if it had reacted to the goddess's power residing within Risel. A small, bright light emanated from the machine. The screen displayed a map with a set of coordinates. Risel immediately recognized the location. He confirmed that it was undoubtedly the place where he had been conducting his experiments, and the map must be pointing to that exact spot. Melsha, sensing the shift in his demeanor, nervously asked what he was doing. He paid her no mind, his eyes locked on the screen, his expression hardening with intense focus as he processed the coordinates. He stares at the coordinates on screen, which display a rather creepy-looking cave. Cecil, shocked by his previous statement, demands to know what he meant. He calmly clarifies that the location is the lowest floor of the dungeon, the very place where the ultra-ultimate life form resides. The fact that this location was displayed at all meant the device could bypass natural teleportation barriers. He reflects internally that the goddess's teleportation ability is truly impressive. Cecil connects the dots, asking if the goddess used this external device to achieve such pinpoint accuracy. He confirms her suspicion, adding that while he doesn't know why she separated the power, it was likely because she couldn't handle it herself. Her gaze shifts to the device itself. "What is it?" she asks, her curiosity piqued. "That is exactly it," he replies. He considers that he could likely handle the ability himself, but not while it is externalized. Cecil smirks, thinking that her presence has finally proven useful, and noting that while the goddess is clumsy, Risel also seems unable to handle the power in its current form. She then voices a new idea. If the power could be separated, perhaps it could also be fused. Risel realizes the implication, murmuring that she means he should absorb the device's power. He declares it a great idea. With a confident smile, he decides to give it a try. He places his hand over the glowing device, initiating the process and calling out, "Refusion." A swirl of bright energy erupts from his hand. "Oh," he exclaims, observing the effect. Cecil watches intently, asking if it worked. He suggests they test it out. They turn back to the screen, where the same dark cave scenery from before appears. "Yeah, it worked," he confirms with satisfaction. Cecil throws her arms up in a cheer. Now that they can teleport anywhere, Risel proposes their next move, to head out and hunt the first ultra-ultimate life form. He and Cecil arrive in a dark, unsettling cavern. He explains that he teleported them a bit further than intended to avoid any potential traps. Cecil, however, trembles beside him, unnerved by the creepy atmosphere and questioning if their target is truly in a place like this. Her fear is immediately justified as she lets out a cry. From the oppressive darkness, shadowy figures with glowing eyes begin to emerge. Risel, unfazed, calmly announces, "Here it comes." The shadows coalesce into a single, towering entity, a skeletal monstrosity with vast, dark wings. Risel identifies their quarry, stating that this is the first ultra-ultimate life form. As he observes the creature, Risel senses that something is off, but he resolves that he simply has to take it down. He turns to Cecil, telling her he will see what it is made of. She nervously agrees. Before he can act, Cecil takes the initiative. She puffs her cheeks and unleashes a massive beam of destructive energy from her mouth, striking the ultra-ultimate life form dead on. The creature is blown apart by the force of the blast, its skeletal body shattering and falling from the air. Cecil is stunned, wondering aloud if she actually knocked it down in a single blow. Risel, however, remains vigilant, warning her that it could be a trap and to stay sharp. They stand in the sudden silence of the cavern, watching the spot where the creature's remains have fallen. After a moment, Cecil breaks the silence, still sweating and questioning if the creature could have really died in one hit. Risel agrees that it cannot be right. Suddenly, Cecil's expression shifts to one of alarm as she senses movement from the remains, shouting, "Here it comes." The shattered bones of the life form begin to melt and dissolve, transforming into a bubbling, viscous puddle on the cavern floor. From this puddle, a small, gelatinous blob rises, forming a simple, smiling face. Cecil stares in disbelief, asking if this is the ultra-ultimate life form. Risel, however, dismisses it, telling her that's not it and to look elsewhere, his attention captured by something new. His attention was fixed elsewhere, but Cecil was completely focused on the creature before her. She watched in alarm as the smiling slime began to coalesce, its form shifting back into the skeletal monster. Believing it to possess a resurrection ability, she prepared to strike it down once more. Before she could attack, he stepped in, holding up a hand to stop her. "Wait, let me handle this," he said calmly. As his gloved hand began to glow with a soft light, he focused his intent, internally initiating a command to release the creature's shape memory. In an instant, the creature's form burst apart, dissolving into a simple, inert puddle on the dungeon floor. Cecil, now held in his arms, looked on in confusion. "Is it dead?" she asked. He shook his head slightly. "No, I just deactivated its shape memory, but—" His voice trailed off, a thoughtful expression on his face. He elaborated on his suspicion, explaining, "I felt something was wrong from the moment we faced it. It lacked that distinct aura that the moon dragonutes possessed." Cecil's eyes widened in realization. "Then where has the real one gone?" she demanded. In response, he decided on a course of action. "Let me check the dungeon system data. There might be a hint hidden in there somewhere." His eyes glowed as he initiated the process, beginning a comprehensive dungeon search. The search results flashed through his mind, causing him to recoil in shock. It wasn't an ultra-ultimate life form at all, but merely a monster posing as one in the deepest part of the dungeon. "No way. How could this?" he murmured, as Cecil looked up at him, asking what was wrong. He stared into the distance, processing the impossible truth revealed by his search. The very foundation of their location had been compromised. The dungeon system itself had been rewritten. Within the dungeon, the demon lord Cecil expresses shock at the concept of data rewriting. Risel explains that the dungeon is indeed being reset, but the boss has been replaced with a fake, not the true first great ultimate life form. When she asks if such a thing is possible, he confirms it is, though such work can only be done from the dungeon's lowest floor. Cecil immediately wonders if this means someone has already defeated the first great ultimate life form. Risel, examining a corrupted data crystal, clarifies that he can't be sure, as one doesn't need to defeat the boss to rewrite the data. He deduces their goal is likely pathway sabotage, to monopolize the creature's power by preventing anyone else from encountering it. He continues his reasoning, recalling that the goddess transported him near the world's strongest human upon his summoning, meaning no one should have been capable of such a feat at that time. He concludes this sabotage must have occurred while he was away. Cecil scoffs, remarking that whoever rewrote the data has a nasty personality for wanting to hoard the power. Cecil then proposes a countermeasure, overriding the data from their own end. Risel dismisses the idea, explaining that while overriding itself is possible, reverting the boss back into a great ultimate life form is not. When she asks why, he admits he can't be certain, but theorizes that they lack the necessary genetic information of the original creature to reintegrate it into the data. Pondering their next move, Risel decides they should proceed to the location of the second great ultimate life form first, accepting that they must tackle the challenges out of order. Cecil agrees, expressing her hope that the next one is still intact, a sentiment Risel quietly shares. She internally observes his uncharacteristically depressed state, finding it a rare sight. Their new destination is a town nestled in a hilly, forested region. Its central feature a large building with a stone tower. Arriving with a view of the town, he explains that its guild manages the dungeon containing the second great ultimate life form. Cecil observes that their destination isn't a forest this time, and Risel simply agrees. Upon entering, they find the town in disarray. Cecil is shocked, noting it was full of life on her last visit. As she wonders what happened, a woman's scream draws their attention to a man aggressively accosting her while others look on in fear. As the thug continues his harassment, Risel calls out to him, causing the man to turn in surprise. Risel coolly observes that there appear to be some dangerous individuals in the area. He is immediately accosted by the thug, who shouts at him to mind his own business. Unfazed, Cecil issues a chilling ultimatum to the ruffian. Release the woman and leave now, or be killed. Before the thug can react, Cecil seizes his wrist, twisting it with enough force to make him cry out in pain. Didn't you hear me? She asks, her voice dangerously low. The thug's companion watches, momentarily stunned. Realizing they are outmatched, the lead thug snarls a retreat, warning Risel and Cecil that they will regret their interference. As they depart, Risel sighs, acknowledging that he prefers to avoid such conflicts, but couldn't ignore the woman's distress. The woman they rescued approaches, bowing deeply in gratitude. Cecil, her demeanor softening, asks if she is hurt. The woman assures her she is fine and, observing their outfits, inquires if they are adventurers. He confirms her suspicion, then asks for her identity in return. The woman's face lights up as she introduces herself as a receptionist at the local guild. Risel remarks on the convenience of their meeting, explaining that the guild was their intended destination. He then asks if she would guide them, and she eagerly agrees. As they follow her through the streets, Cecil privately reflects that, for once, her tendency to meddle has produced a positive outcome. Upon arriving at the guild hall, the receptionist offers her thanks once more. Cecil dismisses the praise, stating it was nothing. The receptionist insists they were a great help, explaining that the town has been plagued by an increase in crime and the appearance of thugs for some time now. Risel listens intently. The new information prompts Cecil to wonder if this chaos is connected to the great ultimate life forms. While Risel cannot be sure, he agrees that the dungeon is likely involved and states his wish to learn more about the situation. He directly addresses the guild receptionist, stating his desire to speak with the guild master. The receptionist, maintaining her professional demeanor, asks what business they have with the guild today. Her expression falters slightly at the mention of the guild master. Sensing her hesitation, Risel asks if arranging such a meeting would be difficult. The receptionist explains the protocol, stating that meetings with the guild master are reserved for adventurers of a rank or higher. She apologizes profusely for having to ask this of the one who saved her, but the rules are firm. The mention of rank catches Risel's attention. Cecil chimes in, confidently stating that he must have his adventurer's card. The receptionist's mood lifts immediately, agreeing that they can verify his rank if he presents his card. She turns to Risel, who hesitates, a bead of sweat forming on his temple as he mutters uncertainly. He frantically searches, admitting that while he should have it, he can't seem to find where he put it. Cecil reacts with disbelief, shouting at him, asking if he's saying he doesn't have it at all. Risel apologizes profusely, confessing that he is not very good at managing small items. His excuse only enrages Cecil further, who yells that they can't accomplish anything this way and demands to know what he intends to do now. As their argument reaches a fever pitch, the receptionist's cheerful voice cuts through the tension, offering a solution. She suggests that she can try searching for his registration by name instead. Cecil, surprised by the offer, asks if that is truly permissible. The receptionist winks conspiratorially. She explains that while she would normally need to ask her supervisor for permission, she is making an exception as a personal thank you for saving her life, asking them to keep it a secret. She agrees to look up his information by name. Relieved, Risel provides it. Risel. Both he and Cecil let out a sigh of gratitude, thankful for the assistance. As her fingers tap away at the terminal, Risel has a sudden thought, wondering to himself if his adventurer rank was S. The receptionist mutters his name as she searches, her eyes scanning the screen until a specific entry catches her attention, her expression shifting to one of shock as she reads S rank. Her search results leave her utterly stunned. Risel, noticing her frozen posture, looks on with a puzzled expression, wondering what she found. She turns to him, her voice filled with disbelief, asking if he could possibly be that Lord Risel. At his side, Cecil immediately asks if he's done something crazy again, but a bewildered Risel insists he's done nothing in particular. The receptionist quickly verifies his identity, comparing his face to the registration photo on her screen. I found it, she exclaims, confirming with certainty. There's no mistake. As Risel and Cecil begin to walk away, the latter questioning if he caused some past trouble, the receptionist suddenly rushes from behind her desk. She urgently calls for them to wait, announcing that she will summon the guild master immediately. She returns moments later, apologizing for the wait and directing them to a private reception room. Cecil asks if she is back already, while Risel understands the implication. His status means he cannot be left waiting in the public lobby. Now seated in the quiet room, Cecil remarks that Risel is truly a famous person in this world. He reflects that it must be because of the various things he has done in different places while training and gathering allies. Suddenly, the door bursts open and an older man rushes in, bowing deeply. He apologizes profusely for the wait, introducing himself as the chief manager of the guild. Cecil watches the frantic display with a deadpan expression. The manager, still bowing, expresses his astonishment that the great Lord Risel would pay them a visit. Composing himself slightly, he formally asks what business has brought them to the guild. He listened with a grave expression as Risel stated his request, permission to clear the dungeon. The manager repeated the words, "The dungeon," you say, his face etched with concern. His visible apprehension prompted Risel to ask if there was a problem. Before the manager could respond, Cecil inquired if a criminal organization was involved. The manager, looking distressed, began to confirm that the dungeon had indeed been occupied by a certain criminal group. He continued, specifying the group was an organization called the Jailbreakers Paradise. He asked if Risel was familiar with the name, to which Risel, hand to his chin in thought, affirmed that he was. Upon hearing the name, Cecil's eyes widened as she recalled their connection to the EXILED incident. She asked Risel for more details, and he explained that Jailbreakers Paradise is an organization of former adventurers who help convicted criminals escape and then recruit them into their ranks. She grimaced, calling them a troublesome bunch. Risel agreed, elaborating that their combat abilities are extremely high, far beyond the capabilities of ordinary adventurers or the town's vigilantes. The manager, sweating with anxiety, explained the dire consequences. Because the guild cannot make a move, the town stockpiles are nearly exhausted. Risel surmised that a powerful individual with an eye on the dungeon's resources was likely pulling the strings from the shadows. Having processed the situation, he simply stated, "I understand." His hand clenched into a tight fist, knuckles cracking with resolve. His decisive aura gave the guild staff a surge of hope, with the manager asking if it was truly possible. Cecil grinned, declaring that if they annihilate the criminals, the town's worries will vanish. She added that since it is a king's duty to clear away the people's worries, she would see it done. She then proposed they also defeat the second great ultimate life form. The manager was stunned, but Risel calmly accepted, stating he appreciated the willing permission. The manager and receptionist were overcome with joy at the great news. In an instant, a massive pile of supplies materialized before them. A nearby clerk, responsible for the town's dwindling inventory, stared in disbelief, wondering how on earth they had managed to procure so much at once. The guild manager, overwhelmed by the sudden abundance of supplies, stammers his understanding. Risel calmly entrusts the town to his care, promising a full explanation upon their return. Beside him, the demon lord Cecil offers a confident smile, while the guild receptionist looks on in utter amazement. As they turn to depart, their footsteps echoing on the stone floor, Risel assures the manager to expect a favorable report. The guild manager and receptionist wave enthusiastically, shouting words of good luck as Risel and Cecil walk away, disappearing into the shadows. Once they are gone, the receptionist asks her superior who he thinks Risel's companion could be. The guild manager, sweating nervously, replies that it is not for commoners like them to find out. Meanwhile, Risel and Cecil arrive at the dungeon entrance, a massive cavern where the earth has been violently gouged out. Cecil observes that the crater is much larger than the last one, and Risel agrees, noting it looks as if something clawed its way out. A sudden, oppressive energy washes over them. Cecil remarks that the presence is completely different from the previous one. Risel remains focused, acknowledging the change, but cautioning that they cannot yet be sure if this is their true target. From the oppressive darkness, a grotesque, lanky creature reveals itself. It crouches low, its impossibly wide mouth splitting into a horrifying grin as a chilling voice echoes, demanding that they entertain it. Risel and the demon lord, Melsha, stand side by side, facing the grotesque, lanky creature. The monster's enormous, crescent-shaped mouth splits into a grin as it speaks, its voice a rasping sound, demanding that they entertain at this time. Both Risel and Melsha return its gaze with unnerving, confident smirks. In response to the creature's challenge, Melsha takes the lead. She roars, unleashing her howl of destruction. A colossal sphere of dark energy erupts from her, hurtling towards the monster. Yet, the creature shows no fear, casually plucking a fragment of the destructive energy from the air with its long, spindly fingers. The massive attack dissipates without effect. Melsha stares in disbelief, questioning how her howl of destruction was so easily nullified. Risel, observing calmly beside her, notes that the creature didn't merely block the attack, it erased it completely. He concludes that with such power, their opponent is undoubtedly a transcendent ultimate life form. The creature retaliates. A wave of invisible force ripples outward from it, distorting the very air and ground, erasing everything in its path. The distorting wave rushes towards them, striking the defensive barrier Risel had erected. To his shock, the barrier begins to melt away. Melsha cries out in alarm, yelling for him to get out of the way. The barrier dissolves into nothingness. Melsha watches, horrified, as the protective magic vanishes. She surmises that the nature of the creature's supernatural ability is to melt things. Risel, however, has a different analysis. He corrects her, stating that it's not quite melting. He identifies the power as neutralization. He elaborates on his observation. He explains that their usual barrier magic works by repelling attacks or diverting them into subspace. This creature's power is different. It seems to reduce the very existence of whatever it touches into nothingness. As the monster's attack continues to surge forward, Melsha pales, realizing with horror what will happen if that wave makes contact with them. She turns to him in a panic, asking if he has some kind of countermeasure. Risel calmly affirms that he does, though he adds there's a chance they might simply vanish. He explains that their only option is to utilize the same properties as the monster's attack. As he speaks, he concentrates his power, forming a small, dense sphere of dark energy in his hand. With a determined expression, he declares his intent to offset the creature's wave of nothingness with his own. The two opposing forces rush toward each other, poised for a cataclysmic impact. He explained his method to the astonished demon lord. He had used a quantum magic circle to generate energy with the exact same properties as the monster's attack, effectively plating their barrier with it. Melsha could only stare, stammering that his feat was incredible as the creature's nullifying wave dissolved harmlessly against their defense. Her initial shock gave way to tactical concern. She now understood how to defend, but the question of how to actually defeat the creature remained. With a confident smile, Risel assured her that he already had a plan, but for it to work, he would need her strength. He then instructed her to channel her mana directly into the spell he was preparing. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face, but she complied, gathering a brilliant aura of power around her form. As her energy flowed into his, a swirling vortex of pure, dark power materialized between his hands, churning violently. With the spell complete, he announced his shocking intention to teleport the volatile energy directly inside the monster's body. The creature let out a pained cry as a miniature version of the vortex appeared on its torso, burrowing into its flesh. A moment later, the energy detonated from within. The creature was violently torn asunder, its form obliterated by an internal explosion of chaotic power. The swirling mass of darkness vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving only empty space where the transcendent being had been. Both Risel and Melsha watched the aftermath in silence. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light erupted, striking both of them simultaneously. Their eyes widened in shock at the unexpected phenomenon. The light resolved into a stream of energy flowing directly into Melsha, who cried out in confusion. Risel calmly explained that they had successfully obtained the power of the second transcendent ultimate life form, reminding her of his earlier promise that they would cooperate. Understanding dawned on her face. He clarified that if he had defeated the creature by himself, she would not have been able to obtain its ability. It was necessary to defeat it using cooperation magic, so that she, Melsha, could also inherit its power. He explains that the power they just absorbed is the ability to annihilate anything and everything. As he speaks, Melsha notes that the dungeon itself seems to be reacting to its potency, making popping sounds around them. Risel acknowledges that because the ability is so powerful, he must be careful not to use it in the wrong place. Continuing his thought, he states that he initialized the mana. This prompts a confused Melsha to ask about the cooperation magic they used earlier. In response, Risel elaborates on the technique. He explains that injecting mana from single source is easily identified and eliminated by a target. However, by synthesizing their mana together, they created a mixed or initialized mana. It is extremely difficult for a living creature to discern whether this combined mana is its own or foreign. By sending it directly into the monster's body, they confused its natural defenses, forcing it into self-destruction. Melsha's expression shows she now understands. With their primary goal in the dungeon fulfilled, he suggests they move on to their next objective. He believes their next targets might also have information about the first transcendent life form. As they prepare to depart, Melsha's demeanor changes. A wide, predatory grin spreads across her face as she admits she is itching for a fight, clearly invigorated by their new power. Elsewhere in the caverns, two men are seated around a campfire. One, wearing a headband, appears restless, while his long-haired companion sits in quiet contemplation. The sound of approaching footsteps breaks the silence. The man with the headband leaps up, shouting into the darkness, demanding to know who is there. Risel and Melsha emerge from the shadows. Risel calmly assumes the two are members of the jailbreaker's paradise. The man with the headband responds defiantly. In response, Risel simply says, "I see," as a dark vortex of magic forms in his hand, chains beginning to writhe within it. Instantly, the chains shoot out from the vortex, wrapping tightly around the defiant man and binding him completely. He cries out in shock, questioning what is happening. As the man struggles and yells, Risel ignores his protests and poses a question. Did they tamper with the dungeon where the first transcendent ultimate life form resides? Melsha watches with a hungry grin, while Risel prepares another attack, ready to force an answer. He calmly analyzes his captive's attempt at an attack, identifying it as torture magic. He correctly deduces that the man is likely trying to use a spell to send capsaicin directly into his sensory nerves to inflict intense pain. He then smirks as dark, crackling chains manifest from his hands. He offers to demonstrate a proper example of torture magic, much to the captive's horror, who panics when he realizes his own top-tier spell had no effect. The dark chains envelop the thug, who convulses and screams in agony as bursts of energy rack his body. Watching his companion's torment, the long-haired thug can only let out a terrified squeak, his hand covering his mouth in shock. His point made, He turns his gaze from the incapacitated man on the ground to the remaining one. He repeats his question one more time. Was their organization involved in tampering with the dungeon of the first transcendent ultimate life form? The captive, seeing no other way out, attempts to commit suicide, crushing a poison capsule in his mouth. He grits his teeth, waiting for death, but is shocked to find himself completely unharmed. From the side, Melcha reveals a sharp-toothed grin. She smugly informs the man that if he was looking for his poison ingestion magic circle, she had already taken the liberty of deactivating it. His last resort gone, the man collapses to the floor beside his unconscious partner. He desperately insists that they truly know nothing, explaining that even if the higher-ups were involved, low-level grunts like them would never be told. He continues to plead, tears streaming down his face, begging them to go after the executives on the upper floors if they want to torture someone for information. He considers the man's desperate words and concludes that they are telling the truth. Turning to Melcha, he decides their next course of action. They will go look for an executive. He turns to leave the two defeated thugs behind, his cape swirling with emotion. The demon lord, Melcha, looks on in surprise, asking if he is already leaving. She questions why he isn't going to finish them off. He replies that they aren't even worth the effort, a point she concedes is likely true. As they walk away from the cave, Melcha muses that it might have been better to interrogate someone who looked strong from the very beginning. Their path leads them to the mouth of a much larger cavern, where the silhouettes of three figures stand in the darkness. Melcha's eyes widen as she wonders if they finally found an executive. One of the figures steps forward, revealing a man whose body is studded with glittering magic stones. Risel immediately identifies it as a form of human enhancement, explaining that embedding magic stones into the body allows one to handle unusually high-output magic. Sensing the danger, Melcha asks about the downsides, since Risel himself doesn't use such a method. He confirms her fears, stating that the magic becomes extremely unstable, risking a massive explosion powerful enough to blow away an entire continent. The sheer scale of that potential destruction horrifies Melcha. With a strained expression, she nervously asks if there's a way to handle such a threat. Risel simply touches his chin, deep in thought. His contemplation ends abruptly. A wide, unsettlingly cheerful grin spreads across his face as he brightly suggests they should just detonate their new opponent. Melcha is left utterly speechless and aghast at his proposal. With a disturbingly cheerful grin, Risel looks down at the demon lord Cecil and casually asks if he should just detonate it. She stares back, completely baffled by his question. Her confusion quickly ignites into fury. She shouts that if he does that, the entire area will be blown to smithereens, declaring that she will never forgive him if he involves the innocent residents nearby. She presses him, asking if there's another fatal downside to the magic stone connection. Seeing her agitation, Risel quickly holds up a hand, urging her to wait and insisting that he has a plan. He begins to explain the technique. Body magic stone connection is a method that forcibly links a person's own mana circuit directly to a magic stone. Because of this direct link, the system exists in an extremely unstable state, which is precisely why the mana circuit will be destroyed if the magic runs wild. Cecil processes the grim information, her eyes wide as she seeks clarification. She asks if this means the targets will no longer be able to use magic at all. She recoils, realizing how dangerous that is. The explanation continues. It's worse than she thinks. They won't even be able to trigger automatic recovery magic. The caster literally becomes useless as their core shatters. Cecil gasps in horror at the totality of the destruction. Risel, however, looks on with grim satisfaction. He notes that while a single connection is dangerous, their targets have many, promising some flashy fireworks. Dismissing her shock, he declares that she now understands the operation and that it's time to begin. As he speaks, dark, chain-like tendrils of magic erupt from the ground, ensnaring the three thugs below. The magic violently binds the jeweled man, who grunts in pain. He and his companions are caught completely off guard. He demands to know what the magic is and who is there, while the headband thug, beside him, identifies it as a form of torture magic. The jeweled man scoffs at the idea of mere torture magic. He tries to break free, but his confidence evaporates as he realizes he cannot dispel the spell. The dark energy intensifies, and cracks begin to spiderweb across his jeweled skin. He looks down in disbelief as the large magic stone on his chest begins to fracture. Nearby, the headband thug watches in terror, shouting a warning as his companion's head also starts to crack apart. He desperately tries to rationalize the situation, sweating as he insists that his body has only cracked and the magic hasn't run wild yet. Beside him, his hooded companion expresses his terror, stating plainly how bad their predicament is. Their panic is justified. From a distance, Risel and the demon lord Cecil watch as not only the two thugs, but also the jeweled man, begin to fracture under the strain of the unstable magic. As Cecil remarks that they seem to be having a dispute, Risel calmly explains the grim reality. No one wants to be caught in the violent rampage of a magic stone connection when it finally gives way. With a cold smile, he decides it is time to apply the finishing touch. A moment later, Agonizing screams fill the air as the bodies of the jeweled man and his allies erupt in a violent burst of energy. In their final moments, their terror had reached a fever pitch. The headband-wearing thug questioned if his hooded companion even understood the suicidal nature of their mission, while the jeweled man desperately tried to believe his body could withstand the assault. The hooded man, realizing running was useless, debated with his comrade about whether they should even try to flee. Despite the futility, the headband-wearing thug gives in to his fear and attempts to flee, screaming that even if he knows it's pointless, he doesn't want to be there. His hooded companion cries out in despair, begging not to be left behind. Watching the chaos, Risel briefly considers letting the survivors go. His attention is drawn back by Cecil's frantic warning. She points out that the jeweled man looks like he's about to explode at any second and questions what Risel is doing. In response, he calmly explains that he has already set up a barrier utilizing the power of annihilation. He tells a perplexed Cecil to simply watch until it's all over as the barrier forms around the jeweled man, just as his body detonates. The full force of the detonation is contained within Risel's dark, swirling barrier. The long-haired thug, caught at the edge of the blast, cries out as he is consumed. Watching the violent spectacle, Cecil quietly asks if it is finally over, but it is not merely contained. To Cecil's astonishment, the explosion itself is being unmade, annihilated from within by the barrier's power. Risel looks on with satisfaction, declaring that the experimental results for his power of annihilation are a huge success. He calmly addresses the Demon Lord, telling her he'll explain how to set up the barrier later. She points insistently, questioning why they aren't pursuing the ones who fled. In response, a glowing magical sigil materializes in his palm. He reveals that he placed tracking magic on them as they ran. The Demon Lord looks on, impressed by his foresight. The magic coalesces into a floating, rectangular display, a map complete with a detailed grid for pinpointing locations. On the map's surface, two figures are seen fleeing across a desert landscape. Risel observes their trajectory, noting the direction they are headed, which prompts the Demon Lord to ask if he knows the region. He confirms their destination, the neighboring kingdom of Galmia. A slight smile plays on his lips as he murmurs that this development is interesting. The Demon Lord quickly connects the dots, asking if this implies their enemy's headquarters is located within the kingdom of Galmia. With his hand resting thoughtfully on his chin, Risel affirms her suspicion. Her eyes widen in shock as she processes the gravity of his statement. She asks incredulously if he is suggesting an entire country is backing a criminal organization. Risel calmly posits an even more startling possibility, that the mastermind behind the entire incident is the kingdom of Galmia itself. He elaborates on his theory, explaining that such a thing is not unheard of. A dungeon is synonymous with resources, and this particular town's location near the border makes it a valuable strategic asset. It would not be strange for a neighboring power to plot to bring it under their control. The Demon Lord questions why Galmia wouldn't just try to take the town through open conquest. He explains that they likely wish to avoid exhausting their national strength by declaring an open war. He lays out the entire suspected scheme. The plan would be for their accomplices, the group known as Jailbreakers Paradise, to occupy the dungeon. Afterwards, the kingdom of Galmia would intervene, ostensibly to help, thereby seizing control of both the town and its resource-rich dungeon. The Demon Lord concedes that the scenario is plausible. He explains to Cecil that the dungeon of the third transcendent ultimate life form is located within the kingdom of Galmia, a country where clearing dungeon bosses is strictly forbidden. He notes that if his theory about their involvement is correct, it presents a very favorable opportunity for them. Cecil, unimpressed, questions what he means by that. He grins, clarifying that he isn't thinking of blackmail, but rather intends to use the information as a bargaining chip for their own dungeon raid. As he speaks, he notes that his observers seem to have reached their destination. He tempers the excitement by reminding Cecil that, for now, it's merely a what-if scenario, based only on evidence suggesting the Jailbreakers Paradise base is within Galmia's territory. At that moment, in a desolate, sandy landscape, one of Risel's cloaked observers holds out a glowing, ornate key. The key dissolves into light, magically revealing a hidden entrance set into the ground. The figure descends into the passage. Watching remotely, Risel confirms that this is undoubtedly their base. He muses aloud that it would be beneficial to get a look at the face of the boss or an executive, as Cecil looks on with wide-eyed shock. Inside the hidden headquarters, a massive, horned skeletal figure sits upon a grand throne. Risel identifies him as a no-life king, recalling that he'd heard the boss of Jailbreakers Paradise was an undead. Cecil realizes this must be their target. Their observation is suddenly interrupted as another cloaked figure bursts into the throne room, shouting that something terrible has happened. The skeletal boss commands the subordinate to speak. Risel and Cecil watch the unexpected chaos unfold, with Risel deciding they should continue to observe quietly. The cloaked reporter, kneeling and trembling, delivers the news. The dungeon that was under their occupation has ceased to function. The skeletal boss leans forward, his jaw agape in disbelief. He continues, explaining that they believe someone has cleared the transcendent ultimate life form. He adds that their own forces also came under attack, though he is uncertain if it was by the same person. The reporter reveals that through a mysterious torture magic known as Rialdos of a connection, their target was forced into a mana rampage. Enraged, the skeletal boss slams his bony fist on the armrest of his throne, demanding to be told the details. The boss roars that it's nonsense, arguing that a rampage fueled by that many magic stones should have utterly destroyed the surrounding land. The terrified reporter explains that this is the most baffling part. They can only conclude that whoever caused the rampage also possessed the power to perfectly suppress the resulting explosion. The cloaked figure stands before the throne, his voice trembling slightly as he confirms the report. From his massive throne, the skeletal boss leans forward, his voice a low rumble, demanding to know if he is certain. He affirms his certainty, though he admits he lacks definitive proof. Sweat beads on his brow as the skeletal boss presses him, questioning if the one who suppressed the mana rampage could be the same person who defeated the transcendent ultimate life form. The question hangs in the air for a moment before the skeletal boss lets out a dry, rattling sound. The sound builds, echoing through the throne room as he opens his jaw in a silent laugh. His laughter erupts, a cacophony of bone rattling against bone. He brings a skeletal hand to his face, shaking with amusement at the sheer audacity of it all, to intentionally trigger a mana rampage only to completely suppress it. The reporter flinches at the outburst, but another subordinate speaks up. He declares that a name comes to mind, a man who once drove their organization to the brink of destruction. As he speaks the name, Risel, the hero himself, observing from afar, reacts with a sharp intake of breath. The cloaked reporter slumps, defeated. He sighs, admitting that he can't imagine anyone but that man pulling off such a stunt. It seems the situation is unavoidable. The skeletal boss's amusement vanishes, replaced by cold fury. He roars that since they occupied the dungeon town in partnership with the Kingdom of Galmia, they'll be hit with massive penalties for this breach of contract. He commands his forces to immediately identify this mysterious individual and gather evidence of their interference. He stands, his voice booming with strategic clarity. If they can prove the enemy is Risel, the kingdom should take the circumstances into account and handle things favorably. However, if the opponent is indeed Risel, a half-hearted force will be annihilated. Therefore, he declares, they will reinforce the dungeon raid unit. With a final, chilling command, he bellows for them to go, stating he doesn't care how many sacrifices it takes. His two subordinates bow, accepting the order. Meanwhile, Risel, observing alongside Risel, notes that money seems more important to this organization than the lives of its members. Risel scoffs, calling them fools. He questions whether they truly believe the kingdom will simply accept the situation if they find out he is the enemy. Risel finds the entire situation unpleasant, though she concedes it's typical behavior for a criminal organization. He sits amidst the rubble as Risel muses that the matter of the first transcendent ultimate life form requires further investigation. Turning her attention to their current situation, she addresses him with a cheerful now, then, and with a predatory grin, she eagerly proposes that they go hunt for some reinforcements. Risel stands beside her, a faint, knowing smile on his face. Their hunt begins immediately. In a flash, they descend upon a group of men, leaving several incapacitated before they can even react. One of the thugs, his face a mask of shock and confusion, demands to know who they are. His eyes widen in sudden recognition as he stares past the girl and shouts Risel's name. Risel, unbothered, offers a glib response, introducing herself merely as a passing demon king. The thug's recognition turns to pure rage. He points an accusatory finger, his face contorted in fury as he screams that he knew it was Risel's doing. His companion, the long-haired man, calmly asks if he knows their attacker. The furious thug stammers, caught between confirming and denying his connection, before cursing in frustration. Risel, observing the outburst, simply lets out a questioning sound. The thug's hesitation vanishes, replaced by a burning desire for vengeance. He roars about a grudge from their past, vowing that he won't allow Risel to feign ignorance. With a final, furious command, he orders his men to attack. A woman with dark horns and a small crown raises her shield and bellows a command to her crew. With a unified cry, her subordinates, including a man with a headband and another with long hair, prepare to attack. In response to their charge, the ground erupts with a massive torrent of water. The horned woman lunges forward with a roar, only to be caught in the sudden deluge. Amidst the chaos, Risel and the demon lord stand untouched. The demon lord recognizes the scent of the tide, realizing a sea has materialized around them. The horned woman, now soaked, clicks her tongue in annoyance. She finally recognizes her opponent, identifying them as the shipless pirates. Risel confirms he remembers them, prompting the demon lord to ask about their history. The pirate leader retorts that it took him long enough to recall who they were. Her voice explains their methods. They are top-tier experts in underwater magic combat. They specialize in using barriers to disable ships, forcing the fight into the water, and use weather weapons to sink their opponent's vessels entirely. The demon lord turns to Risel, her curiosity piqued. She asks why these underwater professionals harbor such a deep grudge against him. Risel averts his gaze, hesitating for a moment before beginning his explanation. He recounts that he interrupted their experiments at sea with his own weather weapons. Out of spite, he captured them and handed them over to the authorities, noting they were likely scouted by prisoners' paradise. Enraged by the memory, the pirate leader vows that they are stronger now and that it is time for him to regret everything. As they watch, the pirate leader produces a syringe. Risel identifies the substance as a mana adrenaline injection. Before the demon lord can fully process what that is, the woman injects the drug into her neck, letting out a guttural scream. This is an extreme measure, a drug that boosts mana over 100 times but reduces the user's lifespan to just 3 hours. The demon lord realizes her opponents are literally putting their lives on the line. Acknowledging the gravity of their resolve, Risel agrees it would be rude not to fight with his full strength. He decides to go all out. Now empowered, the pirate leader raises a hand, roaring that she will kill them all at once. The battlefield is now completely submerged. Risel stands calmly on the watery ground as the horned pirate queen lands opposite him, the space between them charged with tension. A swarm of sharp, fish-like projectiles made of magic hurtles through the water, converging on the two combatants as they prepare to clash in the depths. He remained unfazed as the horned pirate queen taunted him, confident in her underwater advantage. He turned to the demon lord, Shah, warning her that the pirates had used their ultimate weather weapon, Gorilla Downpour. The area would flood instantly. As he spoke, a barrage of dark, sharp projectiles began to rain down into the rising water around them. As the water rapidly rose, Shah realized with alarm that the pirates had surrounded them the very moment the magical sea was created. The pirate queen, licking her lips in anticipation, declared his plan perfect. One of her subordinates questioned the wisdom of using lightning in an underwater battle, but she dismissed the concern, ordering her crew to attack Risel with overwhelming force. Her triumphant command was cut short. A blinding flash of lightning erupted from Risel, engulfing the pirates in a massive electrical field. The queen could only utter a choked gasp of disbelief as her strategy backfired spectacularly. The attack was absolute. The bodies of the pirates disintegrated into dust and motes of light, their life force extinguished in an instant. Only 3 figures remained amidst the carnage, the stunned pirate queen and 2 of her subordinates. With the battle concluded and the water gone, Risel turned to Shah, who had maintained a protective barrier. He boasted that by combining the speed of his lightning with her power of annihilation, their enemies were no better than helpless infants, even against the current, drug-enhanced Shah. He then considered their next move, stating that reinforcements from the paradise of jailbreakers would likely continue to arrive. For now, he decided they would simply wait for them. Shah quietly agreed. As decided, the 3 surviving pirates, the queen and her 2 remaining crew members, were allowed to walk away, their footsteps heavy with defeat. From a hidden vantage point behind a rock formation, Risel and a now tiny, chibi-like Shah peered out at a large crowd of people gathered at the mouth of a dark cave. Regrouping with his allies, the headband thug, the long-haired thug, and a woman in a witch's hat, Risel announced his decision to let the 3 pirates live. Perched on the long-haired thug's shoulder, the small Shah looked up and asked him why. He explains his reasoning for sparing some of the pirates. He wants them to return to their boss, the No-Life King, and deliver proof of his identity. Risel believes that if the No-Life King reports that he was the one interfering, the kingdom of Galmia might show leniency. Shah understands that he is intentionally letting a few of them go and asks what he plans to do next, but he cryptically replies that she will find out later. Without further explanation, he issues a command. Shah is to take the left flank while he takes the right. She acknowledges the order. As he gives the command, Risel's eye glows with power. Instantly, the ground beneath each member of the assembled crowd illuminates with a distinct, ominous circle of light, trapping them in place. The sudden phenomenon catches the group completely off guard. One of the larger men looks around in bewilderment, wondering aloud what is happening as the strange light envelopes them. In a flash of disintegrating light, the entire crowd vanishes, leaving only 3 individuals standing amidst the fading afterglow. The large man stares in shock, realizing everyone else is gone. One of the survivors questions if that was the last of the reinforcements. Their attention snaps to Risel, who greets them with a calm smile. The woman in the witch hat recognizes him immediately, crying out his name. Seeing this, the large man becomes enraged, realizing Risel is responsible and demanding to know what happened to his comrades as he draws a dagger. The 3 survivors can only watch in abject horror as the shadowy forms of their allies completely dissolve into particles, fading into nothing. They are paralyzed by fear, letting out choked gasps of terror. With the threat neutralized, Shah casually remarks that it was a piece of cake. Risel turns to her, offering a simple acknowledgement of her contribution. Good work. He and Shah now stand before the trembling survivors. A cold smile plays on Risel's lips as he notes that only the 3 of them remain. Shah, with a predatory grin, wonders aloud what will become of them. Overwhelmed by terror, the large adventurer screams for the others to retreat. Cursing Risel, the 3 survivors turn and flee for their lives. As the three survivors flee into the darkness of the tunnel, Risel watches them go, confident they will deliver his message since they recognized him. Mersha agrees with his assessment, and he suggests they return to report their success to the guild leader. Back at the guild hall, the guild manager slams his hands on his desk, his face a mask of utter shock. He shouts in disbelief, having just heard that Risel defeated the second hyper-ultimate life form. Risel calmly continues his report, confirming that they have successfully reclaimed the dungeon from the group, known as the Paradise of Jailbreakers. He adds that while the dungeon is currently inactive, it should return to its normal state soon. The guild manager struggles to comprehend the incredible news, his eyes welling with tears. Beside him, Mersha beams with joy, exclaiming that the city will finally be full of life again. Overwhelmed by emotion, he covers his face, his voice thick with gratitude as he thanks Risel profusely. Risel tries to downplay the moment, but the manager apologizes for his emotional outburst. As a receptionist comforts her superior, she turns to Risel, asking if he has a moment to spare. He readily agrees, asking what she needs. Mersha tilts her head, her expression one of pure curiosity. In response, the guild manager and receptionist proudly unveil a large object. The manager explains they had prepared it in anticipation of his victory, revealing a statue meant to honor his great achievement. Risel stares, utterly speechless. His stunned silence is broken by Mersha, who stifles a giggle at his expense. Misinterpreting his reaction as displeasure, the guild manager quickly assures him that it's only a prototype. Risel, flustered, tries to silence Mersha's amusement. While the guild staff look on adoringly, Mersha leans in to console the mortified hero. She tells him it's not so bad, reminding him that it's an honor to be so loved by the people. Risel can only agree, though his discomfort is plain to see. He lets out a long, weary sigh, his face a mask of resignation. Though he finds the gesture excessive, he decides to gratefully accept the sentiment behind it. His reluctant agreement brings a wave of relief to the guild manager, who exclaims his gratitude. The guild receptionist smiles warmly. Noticing Risel's discomfort, Mersha places a hand on his shoulder, reassuring the manager that the hero is simply caught off guard and not to worry. Attention shifts back to the colossal statue, its heroic pose set against the sky. Mersha points with delight, calling it a magnificent sight. The guild manager proudly adds that it was created by the best craftsmen in the city, prompting the receptionist to gently remind him to save his speech for the banquet. Despite their collective enthusiasm, Risel can only look on, his face flushed with acute mortification. To him, the entire spectacle is simply and profoundly embarrassing.